Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another live stream watch along on the Dibbly-Dobbly podcast. It's great to be back for the second T20 International between Australia and the West Indies from the Gabba. And already 10 overs into the Australian innings. They're 1 for 88. They've gone along nicely. 10 overs down in their first innings, 1 for 88. David Warner, 68 off 38. He's batted very well at the start of this match. Aaron Finch batting at number 3 tonight, 15 off 18, and he's done pretty well at the moment. So Australia looking good for a big score here tonight, 1 for 88. A very good morning, good afternoon, good evening to everyone watching around the world. If you're from Australia, good evening. If you're from other parts of the world, good morning, good afternoon. It's great to have your company. So it's going to be O.B. McCoy back in for his second over. He's got none for 5 from his first over, and he'll be bowling to David Warner. He's on 68 off 38. Very good start from him. McCoy bowls, and Warner hits him down the ground all the way for 6. It hits the side screen on the full, and that's a good start from the over from David Warner. 6 runs. Australia 1 for 94. Very good shot from David Warner. He moves on to 74. It was a straight shot. It hit through the line. It was a simple shot, really. Didn't really overhit it. And it hits the side screen on the full for 6. And that's not a bad shot from David Warner. He's seen the ball nicely. And he'll be looking for 100 here. Hello, Han. Hope you're well. Great to see you back, Han. And Australia going along nicely. And David Warner on track for a century. He's on 74. I won't be surprised if he gets his second T20 international century tonight. His first one was against Sri Lanka back in 2019 at the Adelaide Oval. McCoy to Warner, and Warner pulls him through mid-wicket for a single. They were thinking about 2, but they decide against it. Aaron Finch on strike now, 15 off 18. And the West Indies won the toss. Let's just remind people of what's happened. The West Indies won the toss today, chose to bowl first. The teams, Australia's team, Finch, Warner, Smith, Maxwell, David, Green, Wade, Cummins, Stark, Samper, and Hazelwood. The West Indies, their team, Charles, Mayers, King, Puran, Powell, Holder, Smith, Hussain, Joseph, Karaya, and McCoy. Those are the teams that both Australia and the West Indies have selected tonight. Steve Smith coming in for Mitchell Marsh, and Aaron Finch not opening the batting tonight. He's batting at number 3 because of Mitchell Marsh's absence from the team today. McCoy bowls to Finch, and Finch hits it straight down the fielder's throat at mid-off. And that is the end of Aaron Finch. He's gone for 15, and his brief stay at the crease hasn't lasted long. He's gone for 15. It's 2 for 95 for Australia. Yeah, just didn't quite get enough elevation on that. Bit of a change of pace there from McCoy. And Aaron Finch, he just hit it straight down the fielder's throat at mid-off. So Finch, he's got to go. And Australia lose their second wicket. But it's been a good start from the Australians. Han, you say who is playing for a World Cup starting spot and who is just making up the numbers? Well, Han, I think, Cameron Green's just there to make the numbers tonight. Steve Smith's back in the side, so he's pretty much playing for a spot. The other positions are pretty much sorted, I think. But over the next few games, especially against England, it'll be interesting to see how Australia go about team selection. But we do know from Australia that the frontline bowlers won't be playing for the first T20 in Perth because of the travel time between Brisbane and Perth. So they won't be making the journey to Perth, but they'll be back for the second and third games in Canberra, which will be in that England series. So there's a lot of opportunities for players to make sure they get into the first 11. But for Australia, they're just trying everyone. Different options, thinking about the long term, resting players. That's why Mitchell Marsh is not playing today. So it's Steve Smith, who's the new batter at the crease. He'll be facing McCoy. You've got the second wicket for the West Indies. He runs up, he bowls to Smith. And Smith gets a bit of an inside edge onto his elbow. It's a dot ball in the end. Han, you say, what is the point in playing Green if he's not going to play in the World Cup? Well, I think he's just here because of the balance, Han. I think, give Cameron Green some opportunities. And if an injury does happen, he's got some game time underneath his belt. Yeah, I can see your point there. That, if he's not going to be in the squad, why play him? But Australia are playing him. So that's what they've done for this series against the West Indies, and probably maybe against England if he gets an opportunity, which I don't think he will because of Stoinis and Marsh coming back to fitness. As Steve Smith plays and misses that one, goes past his outside edge for no run. So for Steve Smith, he was a bit unhappy about not playing in the last game. But tonight gets his opportunity at number 4. And hopefully for Australia, he can score some runs heading into this T20 World Cup. And McCoy bowls to Smith. Smith drives to mid-off, and there's no run. It's the end of the over. It's 2 for 95 after 11. Thanks for joining us, everyone. Australia going along nicely. 2 for 95 after 11 overs. And David Warner batting really well. He's closing in on another T20 century. If he can get there. And Australia looking to go 2-0 up to end this series before they go into the England series, which begins on Sunday. So it's a quick turnaround. And the West Indies looking to get some preparation heading into the T20 World Cup. As we know, with the West Indies, they're in the first round, so they need to qualify for the Super 12 stage, which is important for them if they want to have any part in this T20 World Cup going forward. We've got 9 overs left of the Australian innings at 2 for 95. Thanks for joining us, everyone. John, hello, John. Great to see you back. You say, hi, Davey looks fit and ready to go. Ground/pitch looks a little green, but not plain so. Yeah, John, it's got a bit of a tinge of green about it, but it's played really well. As you expect at the Gabba, good bounce, good carry. We've seen the batters, once they get in and get set, really start to expand and play their shots. David Warner going really well at the moment. 75 he's on at the moment. Of 40 balls, and that's what Australia want to see going into the T20 World Cup in a few days, or a week or so from now. As Smith, he bowls to Warner. It's straight up in the air and taken. Well, we were just talking about David Warner. He's gone. And the West Indies have got a couple of wickets here, and they've started to just quiet Australia a little bit here with these 2 wickets. David Warner gone for 75. Australia 3 for 96. I'll have a look here. Yep. Totally mistimed at David Warner, straight up in the air, and a caught and bowled just. He nearly spilt that caught and bowled there, Smith. Unfortunately for the West Indies, he didn't drop it. But well batted David Warner, 75. He's put Australia into a good position to get a score here or two. Maybe something around about that 200 range, maybe up towards there, maybe 150 plus, 180, 170. But David Warner disappointed, did not quite time that at all. Glenn Maxwell arrives at the crease. He's another one who needs runs. He hasn't gone well of late. David Warner batted really well for his 75. He's got to go. Glenn Maxwell at the crease. He needs some runs. We all know what Glenn Maxwell can do, but unfortunately hasn't really been performing of late. So he needs some runs. Perfect opportunity for him to come in, and Australia, two new batters at the crease, both on 0. Smith has faced the 3 balls, yet to get off the mark. Maxwell to Smith. Smith bowls. This one's a foolish delivery, and Maxwell does well to dig it out, and it's a dot ball. So an opportunity for Glenn Maxwell tonight. He's really going to make the most of this opportunity. As I said, he hasn't been performing well. He's got to score some runs tonight. So the West Indies have done well. We've got a couple of wickets here. David Warner looked dangerous, certainly on track for another century. But unfortunately for him, wasn't to be this evening. And just mistiming that shot completely, David Warner, straight up into the air. And Odin Smith, he nearly dropped that. And luckily for him, he held on to the catch. So that's his first wicket of the evening. As Smith bowls to Maxwell, he works this off his pads. I'm pretty sure it came off his pads. He'll pick up a leg bye. So yet to get off the mark. Han, you say Smith is playing an incredibly low strike rate and is wasting deliveries. I'm shocked. Well, he's not off 3. He's yet to get off the mark, but he's on strike now, Smith. So it's Smith to Smith. So Smith the bowler, Smith the batter. And for Australia, it'll be a bit frustrated, Australia. They were looking good. The partnership between Warner and Finch looked like Australia were going to get a score of 200 plus at one stage, but now they're both back into the pavilion. And Warner was disappointed about mistiming that shot. He looked in, looked set, and he gave it away. So Smith to Smith. He bowls, and Smith plays and misses this outside the off stump. And there's a run. So a good over from Smith. And for the West Indies, they definitely needed those 2 wickets of Finch and Warner. That partnership was looking ominous. But Australia, an opportunity for them to get a score here that is going to be competitive. Anything up towards nearly maybe that 180 score is a pretty good score. They can certainly get there. There's still a lot of time left in the innings, but Smith and Maxwell need a partnership. Smith bowls to Smith, and Smith, his trademark shot, works it through mid-wicket for a single. End of the over, it's 3 for 98 after 12. So Australia 3 for 98. They'll be looking to get a partnership after the couple of wickets have been lost. David Warner and Aaron Finch falling in consecutive overs back-to-back. Aaron Finch fell in the 11th over. And David Warner fell in that over, the 12th over. So 3 for 98. The run rate's 8 and over for Australia, which is not bad. So it's going to be Hussain, the spinner, back into the attack. He's going to bowl his second over. He's got none for 8 from his first over he's bowled. He bowls, and Smith hits him over the top of cover, down to the fielder at long off for a single. So Smith's off the mark. Han, you say, you know the way to deal with Smith versus Smith? Use all the initials. Yes, that's a good way to separate the two. SPD for Steve Smith, and I'm not sure what Odin Smith's initials are, but that's a good way to distinguish both of those players there. Thanks for that, Han. As Hussain bowls to Maxwell. He drives to mid-off for a single. And the 100 up for Australia. 3 for 100. What can they get to, Australia? What's a good score? I did a bit of research before this match started today about the T20 international scores from the Gabba. John, you say, you've got the commentator's curse. As soon as I praised Davey, he got out. Yeah, well, that happens. But he played really well. Now then, there's an appeal. Didn't quite see what had happened there. Glenn Maxwell looks unflustered. I think it's an appeal for a run out. But Glenn Maxwell looks pretty comfortable. I think he's safe. Let's have a look what the third umpire has. Let's have a look. Does he get back in time? No, he doesn't. He's out, run out. And Glenn Maxwell is gone. Oh, that's out. Well, Glenn Maxwell needed some runs. Unfortunately, he's gone. And that is run out. Nicholas Puran, the captain, wicketkeeper, took the bails off cleanly. So the wicket is put down. No problems there. Glenn Maxwell's got to go. And Australia are 4 for 100. Yet again, Australia losing wickets at the wrong time. We saw this in the last game. A couple of wickets have fallen, now 3. And for Glenn Maxwell, pressure mounts on him to keep his spot in this team going into the World Cup. He's gone for 1 of 4. Run out. And Tim David arrives at the crease. What can he do, Tim David? Did pretty well in India in the last game. Got a half century. Australia need that now. Let's have a look. Yeah, way short of his ground. You can pretty much drive a truck through that gap between the bat and the popping crease from Glenn Maxwell there. Way out of his ground. Glenn Maxwell. He needs some runs in the England series. He's seriously under pressure now. So Tim David on strike to Hussain. And Australia 4 for 100. They've lost their way a little bit here after a very good start. Warner, Finch, and now Maxwell gone. Tim David needs a partnership with Smith. He's off the mark. He drives this down to mid-on for a single. He's off the mark. And Steve Smith will be on strike. Just have a look at the run. There was a bit of confusion there. Steve Smith hesitated for the run, and he called Glenn Maxwell through. It was behind square, so obviously, as we know, with batting, it's usually the non-striker's call if it's behind square. And Hussain bowls to Smith. This one worked on the leg side through mid-wicket for another single. And a bit of hesitation there. And in the end, Glenn Maxwell not really committed to the run. He had to go through anyway. He was already halfway down the pitch. So was Smith. And in the end, bit of hesitation cost Glenn Maxwell his wicket. Last ball the over from Hussain to David. Hussain bowls and David defends this for no run. It's the end of the over. It's 4 for 102 after 13. Australia, they'll be disappointed with those wickets that have fallen. Aaron Finch, David Warner, and now Glenn Maxwell. Not what Australia wanted after. A good start. 7 overs remaining. It's going to be Correa back into the attack. He's bowled 1 over, none for 17. And he bowled pretty well in the last game. Han, you say perhaps if the squad wasn't announced so early, there wouldn't be complacent players going through the motions. I agree with that, Han. But obviously Australia, it was a no-brainer for them to select the same team, I think, from the same squad from the last World Cup. The only change they made was Mitchell Swepson out for Tim David as Correa bowls to Smith, and Smith drives this down the ground to mid-on for a single. So a partnership is required from Smith and David. 7 overs, 6 overs after this. Australia were looking good. It was going to be a very promising score, a very high score. But as we know in T20 cricket, you lose wickets. It sets you back a bit. And the West Indies have done well to come back here, but there's still a lot of work to do. It's not done yet. Correa bowls to David. This one down the leg side. David trying to pull this behind square. And in the end, he doesn't connect it. And it's a dot ball. So Tim David, what can he do? We all know what he can do with his power hitting. Quite a powerful player. Done pretty well. The Big Bash and various other T20 leagues around the world. As Correa bowls to David. And David hits this through the covers for a quick single. Thinking of 2, and they'll come back for the second. Good running. Australia looking to push hard for the 2s. Good running in the end. Han, you say basically Cam Green could score 3 centuries versus England and not be in, and Maxwell, Smith, etc. can get ducks and still play. It must make some players be more careless. Yes. Definitely as there's a dot ball there from Correa. With Glenn Maxwell, he'll be still in this Australian side. Despite getting out for 1 again tonight, a low score, he'll be still in the T20 World Cup side because Australia know he can be a match winner. But at the moment, he's not performing to that capability, which is frustrating. And a lot of people are not happy about it. As Carrara bowls to David, he works this through mid-wicket for a quick single, thinking about 2 again, and they'll get 2 comfortably. You can pick off the 2s here at the Gabba. It's quite a big ground. So good running there. Good smartness there. Good to see some smart batting for a change. Pick the gaps and run hard. Run the first one hard and then come back for the second if there's an opportunity to do that. And there was an opportunity to run 2 runs. So last ball of Correa's second over. He's none for 22. And he will bowl to David. He bowls and David hits straight back down the ground. It's a wonderful shot and all the way for 6. That's more like it, Tim David. What a way to end the over. It was a good over up until that point. And Correa gets smacked out of the ground for 6. And Australia are 4 for 113 after 14. That was a good shot from Tim David. Hit through the line, down the ground off the spinner. And that's a very good shot. We saw David Warner earlier play a good shot down the ground, which hit the side screen on the full. And Tim David being aggressive, which is good. Trying to put the pressure back on the West Indian spinner. So it's going to be Hussain back into the attack. What can Australia get to? He bowls to Smith, and Smith cuts this through point. And he'll cut it away for 4. Yes, he will. Poor effort there from the fielder. And the fielder there, Odin Smith, dives and misses it. Much needed boundary for the Australians. What can they get to Australia? They've got to get to a score of 150 plus and beyond. That's usually the average score here at the Gabba. Han, your comment. Surely being the host nation should have allowed Australia to be the team who could name the squad pretty much the day before the first match. Yes, the ICC could have done that, Han, but obviously, you got rules and all that stuff, and you have to nominate your squad by this date. So, and Australia, they knew what squad they wanted to select, and that was the same squad, barring Mitchell Swepson for Tim David as a singles there for Australia. They move to 4 for 118. Yeah, but, rules, regulations, ICC, all that stuff. So it is what it is. But as Hussain bowls to David, and David cuts this to short third man for no run. So Australia, as I said, look promising. And all of a sudden, they've lost 3 wickets. And they need to get a partnership developing here. Hussain bowls to David. David tries to flick this through the leg side, but in the end, he hits his pad for no run. Dot ball. Han, you say, there is no travel. Nobody has to be flown in. They could have waited until the last day to see who was in form in these warm-up matches. Yeah, I agree with you there, Han. As Hussain bowls to David, David pulls this down to mid-on for a single. Yeah, basically Australia, no one needs to travel, well, except, if they're in one city to another. But basically for other countries, it's a bit harder because you have to call in the reserves from out of the country. So it is a bit harder for the away teams, but much easier for the home team in Australia to call up backup players. As Hussain bowls to Smith, and Smith gets an outside edge down to the third man boundary for 4. So Steve Smith, he's 13 off 12, so almost scoring at a run a ball, which is not bad, but he needs to up the pace if Australia are looking to get a total in that vicinity around about 150 plus up towards maybe 170, 180. That's usually the average score in the Big Bash here. But this is the first game at the Gabba this season, so the pitch may be a bit tricky to bat on. But once you get in and get set, hopefully you can score some runs. And we've seen that from Australia thus far. Thanks for joining us, everyone. We've got 5 overs remaining in the chat. What's a good score for Australia? What should they be looking at the moment? It was promising. All of a sudden, the wickets have cost Australia here. But David and Smith, partnership, trying to get Australia back on track. And for those who have just joined us, this game's at the Gabba. Wollongabba, Gabba for short, in Brisbane. And the Gabba is going to be hosting some T20 matches in the World Cup, that's for sure. So if you're in Brisbane, head on down. As Smith bowls to David, and he flashes this through point for 4. That's a very good shot from Tim David. He's a powerful hitter, this guy. Han says, it just seems odd for the host nation to be the first one to name the squad. Yeah, I go back to what I said before, Han. It's just because Australia had an idea of what the squad was going to be. And that was going to be the same as it was last year, except for Mitchell Swepson, because you don't need 2 leg spinners or 2 spinners in Australia. And they replaced him with Tim David, who can, be a pretty good player, as we know, and he's doing quite well at the moment. Smith bowls to David. David cuts this behind point on the offside for another boundary. Back-to-back boundaries using the extra pace there from Smith. This is good batting. That's why Australia wanted Tim David in this side. This is what he can do. Come into the back end of the innings and finish off the job. And already 2 boundaries in this over. And for the West Indies, they've got to be disciplined in their bowling. Their death bowling was not really good in the last game. And those drop catches didn't help either. But tonight, they've caught pretty well. As Smith gets ready to bowl his third delivery to David, his 20 off 12. And he bowls to David. This one's a play and a miss outside Tim David's outside edge, and there's no run. Han says 180 would be a good score from here. Yep, I agree with that, Han. That's usually the average in the Big Bash. And I did some research before this match on ESPN, Cricket Info, about the international T20s that have been played here. And anything around about that region is pretty good. There's only one team that's chased down 150 plus, and that's Australia. And I'll have a look at those stats in the innings break, and we'll talk about them in detail. As this is worked down the ground for a single by David. 2 balls left in the over. John, you say the team on a whole looks short of a gallop in footy terms. Smith in T20s, I think 160, 170 will be a good test, put the bowlers under pressure. I agree with that, John. Obviously, most people have said the West Indies is not really going to be a big test for Australia. That's going to be the next series against England. And we'll talk about that in the innings break, about the squad changes for Australia in that series, and talk a little bit about that in the innings break, as this is a wide delivery from Smith. Too short there, and way over. A bit harsh there. He got the bat near the ball there, Steve Smith. So the umpire called it a wide. Anyway, a bit harsh there on the bowler. Anyway, Smith bowls to SPD. And this one's down the leg side, an appeal from Nicholas Pooran just to bluff the umpire. But Phil Gillespie, the umpire, says, "You're not going to fool me. I'm going to call that a wide down the leg side." So 2 wides back-to-back for Smith. Just got the line wrong. And, that one down the leg side. And Pooran tried to bluff the umpire, as most wicketkeepers do in T20 cricket or in one-day cricket, to prevent the wide. But unfortunately, it didn't work. So Smith bowling to SPD. Steve Smith. Smith tries to ramp it, but in the end, not successful, but he will get a single in the mid-wicket region for 1. Han, you say Smith must only be in there for corporate reasons. He has been a dreadful T20 player, I should say, for 3 years now. Yeah, probably. Also, they just want him to be in the side just to add that stability, I suppose. 1 ball left of the 16th. And Smith, he'll be bowling to David. He's in his run-up, Smith. He bowls. And David hits this down the ground to the mid-off fielder who does the cutting off. And it's a single. It's the end of the over. It's 4 for 136 after 16. So just having a look at the wickets, first of all. Cameron Green was the first one, caught by Holder, bowled by Joseph for 1. Aaron Finch was the second wicket to fall. He was gone for 15 tonight. He was out by McCoy, who came into the side. David Warner missed time one straight up in the air. He was gone for 75, caught and bowled by Odin Smith, who nearly dropped it. In the end, he just held on to that catch. And then Glenn Maxwell was run out for one by McCoy. A very good throw to the keeper in Puran, who took the bails off in a flash. So those are the wickets to fall, 4 of them in this Australian innings for 136 runs. We've got 4 overs remaining. Thanks for joining us, everyone. And it's going to be O.B. McCoy back into the attack for his third over. 1 for 12 thus far with 8 dot balls going at a runner ball. And he's in his run-up now. He runs up past the umpire. He bowls to David, who flashes this in the point region for 4. And Tim David picks up another boundary. That's what Australia need. 140 now. So they're closing in. Another 40 runs, get to that 180 mark. I think it will be a good score. Yeah, just a poor delivery there from the bowler. Short outside off stump. David was able to use the pace and cut that through the point region. And very good shot from Tim David. And that's why Australia wanted him in this T20 side, in this T20 World Cup, because he can do this. He's already 26 of 16. Han, you say if Smith and Maxwell play like this versus England, then it will be a whitewash and great confidence boost for the Poms. Yes, as McCoy gets dispatched by Tim David. It's high into the air, and it's over the rope for 6. Well, what a shot from Tim David. That went many a mile in the air. And in the end, he gets 6 runs. So not a good start from O.B. McCoy in this over. A boundary and a 6, 10 off it. That's a big no-no as a bowler. It just sets the tone for the over. Now, for Australia, it's already been a successful over. First 2 balls, 10 off it. Pretty good. And Tim David, he was pretty happy about that shot. He's on 32 off 17. Yes, I've got a feeling, Han, that series, I think England may win that series. And we'll talk about that in the innings break because Australia have made some changes to their squad for that series. As David again pulls McCoy into the stands for 6, the top tier at the Gabba. And that's gone. It's another 6, 16 off the over. McCoy is just too short again. And that's not the length to be bowling. And you don't want to be bowling short to Tim David. And he's hit 2 6s back-to-back. That one going into the second tier of the Gabba. The second one, geez, he pulled that from outside off stump and into the top tier. Well, it's going to be a long time before that ball's recovered. No one's up there on the top tier at the Gabba tonight with the crowd. And the fielder watched it sail over his head into the stands. What a shot from Tim David. And Australia back on track. Get to your comment in a minute, Han, after this delivery. McCoy, 2 balls left in the over. It's 4-6-6. Well, he's got to stop bowling short for a start. He's bowled short on the past 2 deliveries. What's he going to do here? 4th ball of the over. It's a full toss, and David hits it through the covers for 4. That's just poor bowling. I'm sorry. He's got the line and the length wrong, McCoy. It's an expensive over, and this is the over Australia needed after they lost their way a bit after Warner and Finch and Maxwell departed. But Tim David doing his role in this team, coming in and bashing the ball. And he's hit that through the covers for 4. This is just a poor over from McCoy. Full toss, and it got the treatment. 4 runs. And Tim David's not going to miss out on that. McCoy, for the 5th ball of the over, he bowls to David. And this one wraps David on the pads. There's an appeal, but the umpire says not out. So good comeback there from McCoy, but it's a bit too late in the over. It's already an expensive over. And Nicholas Puran's reviewed this. So I'll get to your comment here, Han. This one's probably missing leg stump. I don't know why they've reviewed it, the West Indies. Tim David looks unflustered. Han, you say Smith has faced 13 balls and has 14 runs. Players like Hales, Milan, Butler will be looking for a 50 off that amount of deliveries. You're exactly right there, Han. It's just how Steve Smith operates, and that's why the T20 format hasn't been best suited for him. Whereas other players like a Coley and a Williamson They just perform better in T20s, whereas Smith doesn't. And that happens. Everyone's different. Everyone has their own strengths and weaknesses. And for Smith, the T20 format's not his strongest suit. As we have a look at this LBW decision that was reviewed by Nicholas Puran. Now, was there a bit of bat involved, or was it outside leg? Well, it was a full toss, and it's hitting the stumps. So a good review in the end from the West Indies. That's a big wicket off the fifth ball of the over. Tim David dispatched McCoy in this over for 4, 6, 6, and 4, and he gets out for 42. But in the end, for the West Indies, it was a big wicket, but the damage, if you ask me, has already been done in this over. Tim David, good 42 off 20. He's got to go, though. It was a full delivery. I thought he got a bit of bat on that, Tim David, but in the end, no bat involved. And as you assume as an umpire, if it's a full toss, if it's in front of the stumps, it's going to be out. So in the end, it was. But a very good innings from Tim David. Gets a round of applause from the Australian players in the dugout. Matthew Wade, last ball of the over for him to face. What can he do, Matthew Wade? He's got 3 overs to try and get Australia to that 180 mark, as we talked about. And Tim David, that's why he's in the side, because he can do this. Just play a cameo like that, 42 off not many deliveries. Matthew Wade, the veteran. And he comes in with 3 overs remaining, 1 ball left of the 17th. Out there with Steve Smith, who's got 14 or 13. We've been talking about Steve Smith. So 1 ball remaining. I'll get to the comments. If anyone's got any questions for me. All righty then. So it's going to be McCoy. Last ball of the over. What can he do, Matthew Wade? Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Make sure you like and subscribe and share the stream. It really does help. And so you don't miss out. Click the bell so you don't miss out on these live streams and watch-alongs. We'll be doing many more in the upcoming days and weeks leading into the T20 World Cup and the tournament itself. All right, here we go. Matthew Wade to McCoy, last ball of his third over, last ball of the 17th. He bowls, and a leading edge from Matthew Wade, but in the end, he gets a single. End of the over, it's 5 for 157 after 17. Very productive over from Australia. And Tim David did most of the damage. That 180 score looks pretty good. Han, you say, I am sure that before Archer destroyed Smith in the 2019 Ashes, that he was a better T20 player. Ever since he got hit by Jofra Archer, he hasn't been quite the same, Steve Smith. I know Gabe's a bit filthy about Jofra Archer doing that, as he said on numerous occasions. But, yeah, he hasn't been the same since. But I think just T20 cricket's just not his style. The pace that he plays in. He's not a power hitter. He's not noted for his power hitting or his strike rate. He's more occupy the crease and, wear down the bowlers, which he does very well in Test cricket. Not so much in the T20 format, I'm afraid. So it's going to be Azari Joseph. He's going to bowl his last 2 overs here. He's going to bowl the 18th and the 20th, you would think. He's got 1 for 11 from his 2. He bowls to Wade, and Wade tries to glide this. But in the end, it's a play and a miss, and it's a dot ball. So, 2 overs remaining, 180. If Australia can get that, look pretty good score if they can. Here we go, Joseph to Wade. Wade walks way outside the off stump, trying to lap it down to fine leg. In the end, he only gets a single, and Steve Smith is on strike. Well, I think for Steve Smith now, it's all about trying to be aggressive here and trying to find the boundaries. Matthew Wade way outside the off stump, trying to work that down to fine leg. In the end, gets a bit tangled up and gets a single. A leg by, in fact, no bat involved, hit his arm. And you say he was averaging around 40 in the IPL before the 2019 Ashes. Yeah, he was doing quite well in the IPL, and then all of a sudden he's gone downhill a bit. Ever since that incident at Lords with Jofra Archer, as Joseph bowls to Smith, and Smith works this to the offside behind square for a couple of runs to the point region, and he moves on to 16. Australia 5 for 160. Now, that 180 score, 20 runs to get there. You would think Australia should get 180 from this position. But it's got to be Matthew Wade to do it, I think, because Steve Smith, as we know, he struggles a bit in this sort of situation. But he's trying. You've got to give him some credit there. He's trying. He's trying to do different things, trying to up the ante if he can. But as we've discussed, it's not quite his style. Matthew Wade at the other end, he'll be hoping to get a few boundaries away on strike. Joseph bowls to Smith. Smith works us behind square on the leg side for a single. And Matthew Wade is on strike. What can he do, Matthew Wade? He had a pretty good last game. Got Australia over the line just in not a convincing performance. And it was a scrappy performance by the Australian team. And also the West Indies had a few areas to improve on as well going into this T20 World Cup. Joseph, he bowls to Wade. This one's a wide delivery. Wade tries to get a bit of bat on that, but goes past his outside edge for no run. A reminder for everyone, make sure you subscribe to the podcast and make sure you click the bell so you don't miss out on any of our episodes or watch-alongs, live streams like tonight. Really does help the channel. And make sure you like the stream as well and share it to all your friends in the cricketing world. As Joseph bowls to Wade, Wade pulls this through mid-wicket. And he'll pick up a single to end the over. It's the end of the over. It's 5 for 162. 5 for 162 with 2 overs remaining. Australia looking to get that 180 score if they can. You say, do you think it is psychological or do you reckon it caused damage to him that he can't recover fully? I think it's psychological, I think, Han. Whenever you're a batter and you get hit badly like that, I'll use Stuart Broad as an example, Han. I know he's a tail ender, but when he got hit by Varun Aaron at Trent Bridge and the ball went into his visor and hit him on the nose, he hasn't been the same with the short ball ever since. So it is definitely psychological, especially if you get a bad hit like that as a batter. Same with Smith and same with Broad in that instance. So I think it's definitely psychological. It's always in the back of his mind. And after that, I saw New Zealand, when they came out in that summer in 2019-20, they bowled short balls at him, and Neil Wagner bowled short balls to Smith in that series and got him out on a few occasions. So it's definitely psychological. It's definitely mental. I don't think there was any physical damage involved. He was concussed, obviously, and he missed out that famous test at Headingley, as we know in the test documentary. He wasn't happy about that, but it's definitely psychological. And as a batter, it's very hard to try and forget about that. As Holder back into the attack now, he bowls to Wade. He drives this to mid-off for a quick single. He'll come back for 2 as a bit of a misfield. And the West Indies, their deft bowling was not really good in the last game. Got it wrong with the lines and lengths. And, well, there we go. Now, the West Indies, they're in trouble. They've got they're 2 overs behind of the over rate. Now, as we know in T20 cricket now, and as we know in the 100, if you're behind in the overs, one fielder has to come back into the 30-yard circle before the last over is bowled, before the first ball of the last over is bowled, I should say. So the West Indies will be definitely doing that because they're behind. Holder bowls to Wade, and Wade pulls this through square leg for a boundary. So Matthew Wade getting the job done again. Yeah, poor delivery from Holder, too short, and Wade was able to pull that through mid-wicket 4. And that 180 score looking pretty good for Australia. They'll definitely get there. It was a slower ball from Holder out of the back of the hand, as we see that from bowlers, different variations. And unfortunately for him, it didn't quite work. And a boundary there for Matthew Wade. So as I said, the West Indies behind on their overs. Holder bowls to Wade. He drives to mid-off, and there's no run. And Australia looking good for that 180 score. Currently 5 for 168. We've got 18.3 overs bowled. So we've got 1 over after this. And I believe the West Indies will have to put a fielder back inside the 30-yard circle because they are behind on their overs. And I think that's not a bad thing in T20 cricket, trying to speed up the game. But, even T20 matches go for 4 hours. And the biggest culprit, and usually both teams playing the game, unnecessary delays that we don't need, which is frustrating everyone with over 8s these days. As Holder bowls to Wade, he works this through the covers for a couple of runs. So a very good over for Australia thus far. 5 for 170, 10 runs away from that 180 mark. They can definitely get there. Let us know in the chat, do you think the West Indies can chase it down? Well, they'll have to bat better than they did in the last game. This time is a bit different. The chasing, different mentality. But as we all know in T20 cricket, the team chasing usually wins. But can the West Indies chase down the runs this evening? That'll be the question. Dot ball there from Holder. Tim David, just having a look at his sixes. One of the sixes he's hit onto the leg side, which went into the top tier of the Gabba, 110 metres. That's pretty big shot. Holder bowls to Wade. This one's banged in short. Wade pulls this through square leg for another couple of runs, and he moves on to 12. End of the over, it's 5 for 172. 1 over remaining, and I believe the West Indies will have to bring in the fielder inside the 30-yard circle. They're behind on their overs. We just had a look at the innings clock, and it ticked down to 0. So they've got to put that fielder inside the 30-yard circle. Han, you say West Indies don't bat smartly, so I doubt it. They will chase it. I tend to agree with that, Han. It's more 4s and 6s with the West Indies. Not enough smart batting, really. So we've got 1 over left, 8 runs for Australia to get to that 180 mark. And I think they'll get there. Steve Smith, he's 17 off 15. Wade's 12 off 11. What can they do in this last over? Can they get it up to 190? 180 in mid-180s. I think it will be a pretty good score. It's already a pretty good score at the moment. Here we go. Joseph to Smith and bowled him. And that's the end of Steve Smith. He was trying to glide that through the offside. Unfortunately, he misses it altogether, and he's out clean bowled. As the great Bill Lawry said, bowled him neck and crop. It was a slower ball. He rolled the fingers across it, and he got a bit of a bat on that as well, Steve Smith. So he played it on to the stumps, and in the end, he's gone. And Australia lose another wicket. They lose their 6th. That is the end of Steve Smith. He's gone. And the West Indies get another wicket. Steve Smith is on his way. Pat Cummins out to the middle. What can he do, Pat Cummins? I remember that innings he played in the IPL where he got a quick fire 50 for the Knight Riders. So he can definitely turn it on if required, Pat Cummins. He's an okay test batsman. He's done pretty well in the test arena with the bat when required. So I'll be hoping to just get off strike and get Matthew Wade on strike for these last 5 deliveries of this innings. So, thanks for joining us, everyone. It's great to be back again. for another watch-along live stream of Australia and the West Indies. This one's a play and a miss from Cummins as a dot ball. So a good start to this last over from Joseph. And 4 deliveries remain. Can Australia get to that 180 mark? They will be hoping to get to that 180 mark. Here we go. Joseph to Cummins, and Cummins drives this to mid-on for a single, and that's a good result. Get Matthew Wade on strike. Let him finish off these 3 balls of the innings, and hopefully Australia can get the 7 runs to get to that 180 mark. And it was looking like a 200-plus score at one stage when David Warner was batting. Unfortunately, it didn't quite eventuate to that, but it's still a pretty good score. The West Indies will have to be smart about their chase. Unlikely they'll probably chase down the runs, but you never know. They would have learned a lot from the last game in terms of how to go about it. And so here we go. Good over thus far from Joseph. A wicket and a dot in a single. Now Matthew Wade on strike. Joseph to Wade. He bowls, and Wade over the top of the man, a backward point for 4. And that's a good boundary there from Wade, getting the job done. Very good shot. And from Joseph, just a little bit short. Matthew Wade was able to help that over the top of backward point for a boundary. And very good shot there from Wade, using the pace. It was short. And we know here at the Gabba, it's quite a good surface to bat on. Once you get in, get used to the bounce and the pace of the surface. And Australia closing in on the 180 mark. They'll be hoping to get into the mid-180s, and they'll be quite happy going into the innings break about defending that score. So here we go, Matthew Wade to Joseph, and Joseph bowls a very big wide, way outside the off stump. And an extra run and an extra delivery for Australia, for Matthew Wade to capitalise on. As I said, once again, thanks for joining us. Make sure you like and share the stream. It really does help. And subscribe to the channel. It really does help the podcast. And do all those good things. As Joseph bowls to Wade, this one wraps Wade on the pads. Matthew Wade says no to the run. Wants to be on strike for this last ball. So, the last ball of the innings coming up now. And Australia nearly approaching that 180 mark. Get a couple of runs here. They'll get to 180. So here we go. Joseph. Last ball of the innings, barring any wides or no balls. He'll be bowling to Wade. He runs up now. He bowls, and Wade, top edge, over. No, it's out in the end. Top edge and straight to the man at short third man. Matthew Wade out on the last ball of the innings. Australia finish their 20 overs, 7 for 128. 7 for 178, I should say. Sorry. So 7 for 178 is Australia's score. And you've got to say, that's not a bad score. Nearly that 180 mark. Unfortunately, didn't quite get to that mark there. So that's the end of the innings. And the West Indies will need 179 runs to win. From there, 20 overs. So there we go. Now we've got a bit of time before the next innings begins. Let's have a bit of a chat about what's happening in the world of cricket, or any other things you want to chat about in the chat as we wait for the second innings to begin. You would say Australia, they should be confident about defending that given their bowling. West Indies will have to bat a lot smarter than they did Han, you say Matthew Wade wanted it to make my 180 prediction look bad. Well, 178 is not bad, Han. It's pretty good. Just having a look at the bit of the research I did before this match started. Now, the highest score here. Sorry, let me rephrase that. I've got it in front of me here. Now, for the West Indies, this will be a historical chase if they can do it. Well, there's only been one team that have chased down 150 plus runs at the Gabba in a T20. Now, that was Australia. They were chasing 158 against South Africa, which was back in January of 2009. They won that match batting second. That's the only run chase of 150 plus in T20 internationals that has been chased down here at the Gabba. Now, the highest unsuccessful chases here at the Gabba was Australia's 192, which was against the West Indies back in 2013. And the West Indies had a different team to the team they have now back then, but they won that match. They set Australia 192 runs to win. Australia finished on 8 for 164. And the second highest unsuccessful chase is 174. That was India. They finished on 7 for 169 against Australia. And that was back in 2018. So for the West Indies, this run chase is the second highest target in terms, if they do get it, it will be the highest run chase ever achieved here at the Gabba in a T20. If not, it will be the second highest unsuccessful chase in T20 internationals. There's only been 10 T20 internationals ever played at the Gabba, and South Africa have played here, India, the West Indies have played here tonight and today. Tonight and back in 2013, and Sri Lanka. So 10 games. And going back to that game in 2012-13, the West Indies won that match by 27 runs here at the Gabba. They batted first, made 6 for 191 from their 20 overs. Australia were 8 for 164 in their 20 overs. And interesting that the players who are playing tonight, some of them did play in that match. Aaron Finch played in that match back in 2013. He only made 4. And Josh Hazlewood played in that match, and he was on T20 international debut. And he got figures of 1 for 36 from his 4 overs on debut. And for the West Indies, Johnson Charles, who's playing tonight, he opened the batting as he did in this series in the last game, but he opened the batting back in 2013 in that match, and he got a 57 off 35 balls. So the West Indies are hoping he does that tonight, Charles, and hopefully repeats what he did back in 2013 in that match where the West Indies won by 27 runs. So there's a few interesting facts for everyone in terms of the past history of T20 internationals here at the Gabba. So 3 players who played in that game in 2013 are playing tonight. That's Finch and Hazlewood from Australia, and Charles from the West Indies, who's also playing tonight. So for the West Indies, it's going to be a record run chase if they can achieve it in T20 nationals here at the Gabba, but they have to bat smartly. Now, as we wait and as we talk about things before the West Indies innings begins, a reminder for everyone that we're going to be live streaming watch-alongs and everything like that heading into the T20 World Cup, which is beginning very shortly. So that's going to be great fun. Make sure you subscribe and click the bell so you don't miss out on that, like we are tonight with our watch-alongs. And we're going to be doing that throughout the whole T20 World Cup and also the rest of the Australian summer as well. Han, you say England have never played a T20 at the Gabba. No, Han, I'll go through the stats again. There's only been 10 games at the Gabba. The teams who have played here at the Gabba, obviously Australia, South Africa, India, West Indies, and Sri Lanka. Those are the teams to play here at the Gabba. There's only been 10 T20 nationals, no game against England. So just doing a bit of research before this game begun today. Dr. Jihan, hello, welcome. Great to see you as always, Jihan. You say will be a good challenge for Australia to defend. They haven't managed this in a while in T20s. No, they haven't. They did get 180 odd in India, but that's a different kettle of fish altogether, different conditions and different pitches over there in India. But yes, they've got a good chance of defending it, Jihan. As I mentioned before, the highest successful run chase was Australia, 158 against South Africa, which was back in 2009. Australia chased it down with 4 wickets. They won by 6 wickets, and quite easily they defended that. They were able to chase down those runs. So that's the highest ever successful run chase here in T20s at the Gabba. So for the West Indies tonight, they will have to create some history to do that. Now, there's 3 unsuccessful run chases. Now, the highest ever unsuccessful run chase was, and I'm pretty sure you would remember this match, Dr. Jihan, it was Australia versus South Africa back in 2006. Australia set South Africa 210 runs to win. They were bowled out for 114. And obviously, the second highest was Australia's 192 that they needed to get against the West Indies. That was back in 2013, which the West Indies won. And the last one, 174, India didn't manage to chase that down against Australia, and that was back in 2018. So those are some of the stats there in terms of the run chases in T20s here at the Gabba. So nothing much to go off in terms of those 10 matches, but we sort of have to base it off the Big Bash as well, because there's been a lot of Big Bash cricket being played here. So it's a pretty good score, but it can be achievable. Jihan says, I remember that match, Damian Martin going off. Yeah, he did. He did. I think he made 90 odd in that match. I did see the highlights of that some time ago. And Australia got 210 in the West, and South Africa, no hope in chasing down the runs. Very good player, Damian Martin. Renell, good morning to you. Hope you're well, Renell. Your thoughts about the West Indies, Renell? Do you think they can chase down this score? Going to be tough. Let's see what they can do. 179 they need to get. John, have to tap out for tonight. Early start tomorrow. As always, a pleasure. Another whitewash upcoming against the Poms. Peace. Yes, good night, John. Hope you have a great night. Hope you enjoy your weekend. And great to see you as always. So Australia, 7 for 178 from their 20 overs. 179 for the West Indies to win off 120 deliveries. Can they do it? Well, question marks about their batting, the West Indies. They've got to be a bit more smarter tonight. They can't afford just to look for 4s and 6s all the time. They need to rotate the strike and do that better. So 178 for Australia. At one stage, it looked like it was going to be probably a score of 200 plus for Australia. Unfortunately, a loss of wickets. David Warner batted well. He got 70 odd, then got out. Aaron Finch, and then it was Glenn Maxwell who got out then. So a fall of wickets for Australia. Again, he got run out for 1, Glenn Maxwell. Just having a look at the replay there. So Australia will be disappointed that they could have got a lot more than 178 at the moment. They could have got a lot more, maybe up towards 200. But, in the end, it's a pretty good score. And as we've talked about with the stats here at the Gabba in terms of run chases, the West Indies will have to create some history if they are to chase this down. As I said, there's only one team that chased down 150 plus, and that was Australia back in 2009 against South Africa. 158 they chased down against South Africa in that T20, and they won by 6 wickets. So for the West Indies, it will have to be a record-breaking chase for them tonight. Renell, you say nope, they won't make this score. Well, we shall see, Renell. We shall see. You can't discount anything, but if Australia take early wickets, put pressure on them, then you probably think the West Indies are pretty much done in this match. So, we're yet to begin the second innings yet. Both teams are doing their warm-ups. Australians just warming up, getting ready to go, getting limbered up. Han, you say, what do you make of the West Indies bowling? Good enough to get out of the groups? Well, Han, they're bowling. They've got some good bowlers. They've got Joseph. They've got Holder. They've got Smith, who've done pretty well in recent times. But for the West Indies, I don't think they're a certainty. Now, I know most people would say, looking at the group they're in Group B, I think they've got Ireland, Scotland, and Zimbabwe, the West Indies. You would think, based off that, they should go through. But I'm not sure. I don't think it's certain. I don't think you should discount Ireland because the West Indies have lost against Ireland in the past, be it in ODIs, but still, Ireland have got some confidence over the West Indies. And then you've got Scotland and Zimbabwe who can cause an upset on any given day. But their bowling, based on what I've seen in this series, it's been patchy. Tonight even, they didn't get the line and length right to Tim David. They bowled far too short and he was able to cart them over the rope for 6. So they've got to adjust to the conditions. Their spinners have done okay. I think they'll do okay. They'll take some wickets. But the rest of their bowlers, they need to really nail down their execution and the basics. Because what I've seen in this series thus far, it's been a bit patchy. And tonight was a bit patchy as well. Han, you say, I don't think Ireland or Scotland or Zimbabwe have smart bowlers to let the West Indies batters get themselves out with stupid slogs. Yeah, it's pretty much in the West Indies' hands, I think. You would say they'll go through, but I'm not sure. I don't think it's clear-cut because when you're in that situation, when you're playing against Ireland, Scotland, Zimbabwe, these teams, I think Ireland would go through. Scotland, they did go through last T20 World Cup, but I don't think they'll make it this time. Zimbabwe, you never know. It's the first T20 World Cup for them in a long time. But you would think the West Indies will go through. But I think Ireland, the West Indies, but we shall see what happens in that Group B in the first round. But the West Indies, they've got a lot of work to do if they are going to qualify for the next stage of the T20 World Cup, the Super 12. It's not straightforward. You still have to qualify. So for them, these games against Australia, very important to get some form if they can. Yes, to say, Han, the top nations can outsmart the West Indies, slog at all costs approach. The smaller nations would just get overpowered, in my opinion. Yeah, I agree with that. It's just about trying to, work out your plans against them. I think it's fairly straightforward, their mindset. They'll just go out there and try and hit boundaries if they can. But yes, against the smaller nations, the bowlers who haven't really faced a lot of that, where batters are being aggressive and looking to hit out every time, they will be under pressure. But you never know in those tournaments and those qualification tournaments, you never know. Anything can happen. So we can't discount, rule out anything. But you would think the West Indies should get through. But I'll put a question mark next to it. You never know. I think Ireland will go through. I'm not sure about Scotland or Zimbabwe, but you never know. I think in the other group, I think Sri Lanka will go through straight away. And then it's either a battle between who was it, the UAE and Namibia. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in Group A of the first round. But it's going to be interesting. So we're not far away from the second innings beginning, the West Indies. about to begin their run chase. So what can they do, the West Indies? What can they do? They need to bat with some smartness and approach this run chase with some smart batting, not reckless batting. As we see too many times from batters over the years, we see them pretty poor when it comes to their batting in T20 cricket. So yes, and also we crossed over 400 subscribers recently, and the last watch along live stream we did, we crossed over 400 subscribers. So we've brought up the quadruple century, which was fantastic. And thank you to everyone who's supported the channel. I really appreciate your support. It's been great to have that support and get us to 400 subscribers. So that's fantastic. So yeah, we've brought up the quadruple century, and yeah, thanks to everyone who've supported the channel over the time that we've been doing it. Really, it's been great. It's been great fun, and hopefully we can get to 500. So another 100 runs. And Renell, thank you. Yeah, appreciate it, Renell. Yeah, we've equaled Brian Lara now. So hopefully we can go past his 501, which is the next goal. But yeah, it's been good. So thanks for all the support, everyone. And let's keep building the channel and keep growing the channel. And hopefully we can get up to that 1,000 mark, certainly by the end of the year, I'm hoping. But it's been a great deal of fun. And hopefully we can continue to keep growing the channel. So thanks for that, everyone. Make sure you subscribe, click the bell, make sure you like the stream, and make sure you share it to everyone. It really does help. And certainly we had a good turnout on the last watch along, which was fantastic. We got over 40 odd likes, and we got over 3,000 views, which was fantastic. I couldn't be happier. So it's going to be Mitchell Starc to bowl. So the West Indies are about to begin their second innings. They will need 179 runs. So Mitchell Starc with the new ball in hand. It's going to be Kyle Mayers on strike, Charles at the other end. And what can these West Indian opening batters do? They're important to set the tone, get them off to a good start. Opening partnership will do that. So, Mitchell Starc, new ball in hand. Here we go. Starc bowls, and this one's a short ball, and Mayers is comfortable, and he ducks underneath it, and not really fussed about that short ball. Thanks, Renell. Yeah, it's just like batting. You know, we got to stay in for the long run and hopefully chip away at the singles. That's what we've been doing. So make sure you subscribe, everyone. Get us to 500. That's the next goal. And hopefully we can get to 1,000, definitely by the end of the year. Han, you say, should the World Cup be 16 teams, 4 groups of 4, with the top 2 making the quarterfinals? It will allow 3 or 4 Meninos in there, and that will boost their development. I'll get to that in a minute, Han, after this ball from Starc. He bowls to Mayers, and this one, outside edge to backward point, and there's no run. Yeah, I know that the ICC have expanded the World Cup going forward, the T20 World Cup this is, when it goes to America and the Caribbean in 2024. I think it's out to 20-odd teams. So I think that would be good, but I think the current system, they're quite happy with it. But if you want to get more opportunities for teams, so you're saying get rid of the first round and just have it basically in 2 groups of 16, and then the top 4 just go like that. I think that could work as well, and it'll give more opportunities to those teams. But that's what they've done at the moment, and we shall see what happens in the future editions of the T20 World Cup. If they think, you know what, we should change it and get rid of the first round, and then just have 2 groups of, as you said, Han, of 4 groups of 4, and then just do it like a mini World Cup like that. I think that's a good idea. But would the ICC do it? I don't know. Maybe. But it takes a long time for the ICC to change things, as we know in cricket. As Stark bowls to Mayers again. And Mayers, what a shot. Straight back down the ground. 1 bounce, I think, for 4 or 6. I think it's 6. Nope, it's a boundary. Nope, it's 6 runs. What a shot from Mayers. Lovely shot. Hit through the line. The bat turned in his hands a little bit there, but that's the short boundary here at the Gabba. And it just got over the rope for 6. So first maximum of the evening for the West Indies. And Mayers picking up where he left off the other night. What a shot he played the other night. That went over cover for 6. That was a very good shot. As Stark bowls his 5th delivery to Mayers. This one's a full toss, driven straight back to Stark, and he's out caught and bowled. Oh, well, that's a poor dismissal. He drove it straight back into the hands of Mitchell Stark. So Kyle Mayers, he's out for 6, and Australia off to a good start in the run chase. And the West Indies, that's not what they wanted. It was a full toss, and he hit it straight back into the hands of Mitchell Stark, who caught it in the one hand in the end. Not easy as a bowler in your follow-through. And that's a very good catch from Mitchell Stark. Kyle Mayers, he's gone. So not a significant contribution from him tonight. He's on his way. He's gone for 6. And Australia get the first wicket. Mitchell Stark, good to see him in the wickets. Han, when Lara got to 501, it was a really bad score. He had a sponsorship deal with a UK jeans company, called it Joe Blogs. 501 belongs to Levy's. So if he got to 502, it was a brand opportunity. The wicketkeeper dropped him, didn't he, in that innings? And that was a costly drop. He went on to make 501, not out, Brian Lara. What a player he was. Brandon King is the new batter, and he's on strike to Stark for the last ball of this first over. He bowls, and King drives to mid-off, and there's no run. Good over from Australia. It's the end of the over. It's 1 for 6. Rennell says, nice catch. Yes, it was Rennell. Very good catch from Mitchell Stark. Not easy in your follow-through. And it's very important to work on that as a bowler. Get someone to hit a tennis ball back at you with a tennis racket. That's often what they do with the spinners to practice the reflexes when you're trying to catch a caught and bowled. But yeah, full toss. And as they say, any delivery is a good delivery. You can get a wicket off it. And probably that wasn't the idea for Mitchell Stark to bowl a full toss. But anyway, he got a wicket, which was good. Rennell, you say, why don't they do it for ODIs as well? I think it's a bit different, Rennell. Obviously, not many countries have ODI status, and all T20 countries now have T20 status. So I think the way to grow the game and develop it is by T20 cricket. That's the way forward. As Josh Hazlewood bowls, and he bowls to Charles, who defends this back down the pitch for no run. So I think that's why they don't do it, because of that. T20 cricket's the way forward in terms of developing the game going forward. Whereas ODI cricket, not a lot of countries have ODI status. Han, it says it gets boring when it is always the same teams in there. Netherlands, Ireland, etc. were always great additions. I agree with that, Han. It does get a bit boring from time to time. And we need those other countries to develop and get better. And as Hazlewood bowls to Charles, this one's worked off his hip behind square. for a leg bye. I can see the square leg umpire tapping his thigh, so it's a leg bye. Every run counts for the West Indies. Yeah, it does get a bit boring from time to time, but hopefully, with Ireland and the Netherlands, they have been getting better, especially Ireland. That series against New Zealand, they played really well. It wasn't New Zealand's fullest strength team, but still, to nearly win against New Zealand was a pretty good effort. Unfortunately, they just couldn't get over the line. As Hazelwood bowls to King, and this one's a swing and a miss outside the off stump, and it's a dot ball. Han says, if he only scored one more run, you would have seen Lara 502 genes. I might make Osbert Lara big zero genes. As Hazelwood there nearly got the wicket of King. One was playing a miss outside the off stump for no run. Bit flashy there, King. He's got to be a bit tighter than that. Hazelwood bowls to King. And King hits this into the turf, onto the offside for no run. Han, you say, imagine 16 or more teams at a World Cup. A player from the USA or Germany makes a splash and gets a BBL or IPL contract. That would be huge for their nations. As it stands, they have virtually no chance. Yeah, I agree with that, Han. But, that's very important to keep expanding the T20 World Cup. And you obviously want to make it competitive. You don't want one-sided games, obviously. But by having more teams, you grow the game and develop those countries. As King works this onto the leg side for a couple of runs, he's off the mark. And Hazelwood concedes his first runs of the over. A comedy pretty good from Hazelwood as a bowler in T20 cricket. He's a comedy rate pretty good. Yeah, it's very important just to keep expanding it year by year. I'm not sure what the actual numbers are, but I think it's up to 20 for the next World Cup or something like that in the Caribbean and the USA in 2024 as Hazelwood bowls, and King works this to the man at the fielder, I should say, at mid-wicket for a dot ball. It's the end of the over. It's 1 for 9. 1 for 9 after 2. West Indies got to make the most of this power play. And for Australia, it will be about taking wickets. That's the goal. Han says, a team like USA just being there will make regular sports news, which will get more people checking the sport out. I agree with that, Han. And obviously, I know Nick and Gabe talked about that as well. They said, if it's on TV and people watch it, people will talk about it. I think people will gravitate towards it because it's more exciting and interesting, like baseball. And I know Nick and Gabe talked about that. In baseball, you have down periods that, nothing really happens. Whereas in cricket, every ball counts, which is the big difference to get people watching in the US. As Cummins comes into the attack, he bowls to Charles. And Charles, a big swing and a miss. And it goes straight through to the keeper and Wade for a dot ball. Also, Han, you say maybe one day we'll get Olympic silver medalist France back into cricket. Well, they won the first ever. Well, they were in the first ever final back in the 1900s. Probably they will. They've got a team, and hopefully we'll see them there. But even that as well, getting it into the Olympics, which is a big thing as well in the US. I know they are pushing for that in Australia because the Olympics are in Brisbane in 2032. As Cummins bowls to Charles tries to cut this, but he cuts it into his pads for no run. Try to glide it through point, cut it away through point, but no success. As I said, they're trying to get that into the Olympics in Los Angeles in 2028, but also in 2032 in Brisbane. I think they'll have more success getting cricket in the Olympics in Brisbane rather than in America, I think, because it's Australia and people love cricket. So as Cummins bowls to Charles again, and Charles, a thickish outside edge down to the third man boundary. Adam Zampa does the fielding, cuts it off for a couple. And Charles is off the mark. Han says, Nick and Gabe love baseball, which is a kids' game in the UK. That figures. Well, isn't it similar to rounders, Han? I think I've played rounders before in school, which is a pretty fun game, similar to baseball. As Cummins gets ready to bowl his fourth ball, he bowls to Charles. Charles straight up in the air, and third man. Oh, he's dropped it. Oh, Adam Zampa's dropped the catch. Down at third man, and Adam Zampa puts the catch down. Well, we talked about it in the last game, didn't we, everyone? That catches win matches. We saw Australia drop 3 catches and the West Indies drop 2. And tonight, that came off the toe end of the bat. And Adam Zampa had it. It boggled out and he dropped it. Well, you've got to hang on to your catches. It's not a nice feeling when you drop a catch, but you've got to hang on to those catches. So Cummins into King. King glides this to backward point to Smith, and there's no run. Rennell says, oh my God, these drop catches. Yeah, Rennell, it's, we've seen quite a few in this series thus far. Rennell, he says, rounders. You say, rounders, my childhood game. Han says, baseball literally is rounders with a bit of evolution. And you also say, Han, rounders was called baseball in Tudor times. That's quite interesting. As Cummins bowls his last ball to King, King pulls this high into the air. No one's there. In the mid-wicket region, Mitchell Starc will have to run from long on to cut that off for a couple of runs to end the over. End of the over, 1 for 14 after 3. 3 overs remain in the power play. The West Indies got to make this power play count if they are going to chase 179. Han says, stupid Yanks, remove the poles so they have bases for nothing. Well, it's quite an interesting sport, baseball. I did watch baseball myself. I remember they had a game at the SCG once. I watched it on TV. It's interesting, but I prefer cricket better. I know Ian Chappell, obviously, and the Chappell brothers, they played baseball back in their younger days. Baseball, not really for me, but I did watch it once when they were in Australia as Cameron Green comes into the attack. And he bowls to Charles, his first ball. He bowls, and this one's down the leg side, wraps Charles onto the pads, and there's no run. Han says, from what I've been able to find, baseball was created as a safer game for women and children to play. And I'm guessing softball was a different variation of baseball as well, just with a larger ball and different rules, I'm guessing. As Green bowls to Charles, and he pulls this to deep square leg where Glenn Maxwell does the fielding, and they'll pick up a couple of runs. Thanks for joining us, everyone. West Indies 1 for 16 in their run chase. 3.2 overs have been bowled. 179 for the West Indies to win. That one's a bit short there from Cameron Green. In the end, it falls safe. So 2 runs in the end from that delivery. Han, you say those tutors didn't want women getting hurt playing cricket, which is in the days of no restrictions on bat sizes, etc. Interesting. And Cameron Green in for his third ball. Bowls to Charles. Tries to glide this, playing a miss. Straight to the keeper and Wade for no run. So the 1 wicket to fall, that was Kyle Mayers. Gone for 6, caught and bowled by Mitchell Starc. He drove a full toss straight back to him. And in the end, that was it for his evening. So Green bowls to Charles, and Charles gets a boundary. Adam Zampa can't cut it off. And it's 4 runs. So a boundary there for Charles. Cameron Green just a bit short again, and Charles was able to work that past the short fine leg fielder for 4 behind square on the leg side. And Adam Zampa could not catch up with that. The ball was always going to win on this outfield here at the Gabba. So Green bowls to Charles. He pulls this. Top edge. It's running fine to the fine leg boundary for 4. So back-to-back boundaries for Charles. That's what the West Indies needed. A couple of boundaries. Han, you say baseball that they play in the USA looks identical to Irish rounders in terms of the 4 bases, bat size, etc. English rounders has 5 bases with poles and a tiny bat. Very interesting. So back-to-back boundaries for Charles. Last ball, Green's over. He bowls to Charles again. This one's full. Driven to mid-on for no run. It's the end of the over. It's 1 for 24. Not a bad over from the West Indies. 2 overs left of the power play. And West Indies. Going along nicely in this run chase. It's steady. Han, you say, have you ever seen a bat from... no, sorry, let me try and say that again. Have you ever seen a bat from before the MCC put a maximum size restriction in place? I saw one that was twice as wide as the wicket. I've seen bigger bats. I've really, before they've put those restrictions on. Yeah, it's just unreal with some bat makers. I know Nick Maddinson playing for Durham. I'm pretty sure you heard about this, Han. He got fined, or Durham got taken some points off because of his bat being too big. Yeah, so the bats have gotten bigger since the days of Don Bradman and those players, or W.G. Grace back in his time. As Hazelwood continues, his second over, he bowls to King. This one's worked through square leg for a couple of runs, or racing away to the boundary. It will be 4 runs. Adam Zampa couldn't cut it off. 4 runs, another boundary for the West Indies. But I think it's good to have bat restrictions on the bats today. Obviously, they've gotten too big. The balance between bat and ball's gotten out of balance over the years. Grounds have gotten smaller in terms of boundaries. A lot of people have said bring back the boundary, or take the boundary ropes off and have the old fence as the boundary as it was back in the day. Hazelwood bowls. King pulls this to mid-on, and there is a single. You say back before the MCC became the lawmakers, we are talking the 1700s here, you could use a bat that was 3 feet wide if you wanted to. Interesting, yes. Well, obviously back then the game was still developing. The bats weren't like the bats that we see today. They were sort of like a shepherd's crook, like a hockey stick. And then you slowly evolved into the bats that you see today. And it's quite interesting to see the evolution of a cricket bat and how the game's changed over the years. But the bats today, they're pretty good. I'll get to that in a minute, Han. Hazelwood bowls to Charles, tries to pull this, a swing and a miss, and it's a dot ball. Gabe wants to use mirrors as side screens. Well, they are quite big, the side screen these days. And I can't understand with batters that you pick out a person in the crowd that's not even directly behind the side screen. They're either side of the side screen or too far above it for those unnecessary delays. As a batter, you should be really focusing on the bowler and the bowler's, watching the ball instead of the side screen. You should be able to see it okay. As Hazelwood bowls to Charles again, a swing and a miss from Charles, who's trying to hit this one out of the Gabba. If batters can just stop doing that, they will cut out unnecessary delays in the game. When we talk about over rates and that being a big problem these days. Han, you say, I think the MCC used a weight restriction, but now they can make bats much bigger than even in the 1970s that weigh less than those bats did. Yeah, pretty much they can. I guess making bats has changed over the years as well. the wood's a lot drier, so the bats are a lot susceptible to being broken. And obviously, it's a lot of money to get a cricket bat these days, especially for young kids. A lot of money for that. If you break it, well, it's not like the old days where you had to put the old linseed oil on it. No one does that anymore. You can't still buy bottles of linseed and oil your bats. Not anymore. As Hazelwood bowls to Charles. This time's a short delivery again. Swing and a miss from Charles. That's the end of the over. It's 1 for 29. After 5, we've got 1 over left of the power play. The West Indies going along steadily, but they need to up the run rate if they are to chase down these runs. The good news is they haven't lost any more wickets since Mayers. Han, you say, I never saw curved bats until the 1990s. Yeah, a lot of batters use curved bats for the bottom rather than squared. I know MS Dhoni batted with a curved bottom. I know Meg Lanning does that as well. She has a curved bottom on her New Balance bat. I've seen that from her. So it's quite interesting to see the different bats. Han says they cover the bats as Cameron Green comes into the attack. He bowls to King, and King pulls him behind square on the leg side for 4 runs. Poor delivery there, much needed boundary for the West Indies. Han says they cover the bats with a fiberglass cover down, so the linseed oil wouldn't even make it to the wood. Yeah, they do, obviously, to protect the bats even more, but well, that's what you used to do back in the day, where you didn't have that fiberglass covering, that you used to oil your bats so you can knock them in as well and protect them for longer. Back then, batters only had a couple of bats. These days, they have more than 10. As Green bowls to King, and King hits this back down the ground, over the rope, I think, for 6. Yes, it is. 6 runs. And the West Indies starting to get some momentum here with the batting. Han, you say the bats I played with at school were pretty much straight if you looked at it from the side. Now they look like a sticky, a sickle blade when you see them in profile. Yeah, they were a lot flatter back in those days with not much curve on the back, as you see now. A lot of wood is into them now these days with the bats. Cameron Green bowls, and King gives himself room. He backs away to give himself room onto the leg side, but in the end it was a plain miss, dot ball. So Cameron Green's been a bit expensive, none for 20 from his 1 and a bit overs. And swing and a miss there from King, trying to hit that hard as he can through the offside. Here we go, Green now to King, swing and a miss again. A short delivery, and this time it's quarter wide by the umpire. Han, you say, I guess now they have different weight bats depending on if they want to defend or slog. I am surprised that it is allowed, though. Yeah, they do have different bats, different sizes, but if it's within the weight, then it's fine. Speaking about bats, obviously, quite an interesting fact. If people remember Dennis Lillee with that aluminium bat, the laws were changed after that, so bats had to be made entirely out of wood, which was an interesting fact to pick up there about that aluminium bat from Dennis Lillee all those years ago at the Wacker in that Ashes test. As Green gets driven down the ground from King for 4 runs. And West Indies, that was a crossing delivery, just sat up a bit. King, very good shot. And down the ground, straight back down the ground for 4. Much needed boundary for the West Indies. Han, you say you should only be allowed to change a bat if it is damaged, in my opinion, not as a tactical choice. Yeah, I think that's one of the things that we need to cut out a bit. Green bowls to King. Oh, good delivery. nearly knocked him over in the end. But in the end, they scamper through for a bye. Just having a look at this delivery from Green. Another cross-seam delivery from Cameron Green. He rolled the fingers on this one. And, past the inside edge, nearly cleaned him up. Good change of pace and variation from Cameron Green. As this is the last ball of the over, he bowls to Charles. And it's a swing and a miss. Dot ball into the over. It is 1 for 45, excuse me. And that's the end of power play. In an okay power play from the West Indies. Not really a big scoring power play, but at least they've lost one wicket. That's the main thing. Han, you say in baseball you can only use a wooden bat in professional leagues, but they allow aluminium bats in amateur leagues. Interesting. Yes, but ever since Dennis Lilly used that aluminium bat, it's always been in cricket that it always has to be made of wooden parts, nothing metal or anything like that. I think Ricky Ponting, many years ago, he had that Kookaburra bat that had graphite in it, and that got banned pretty quickly, which the ICC cracked down on and said, well, you can't use that. It's not made out of wood. It's got a bit of graphite in it. So did it make any difference? I don't think it did. As Pat Cummins continues, he's going to bowl his second over here. None for 5 into the 7th over. 1 for 45 for the West Indies. He bowls Cummins to King. King fishes at this one outside the off stump, playing a miss, and there's no run. There's been 5 boundaries and 2 sixes being hit thus far. The West Indies are matching Australia. At this stage, Australia were 1 for 46, so the West Indies are only 1 run off, 1 for 45. Han, you say baseball players cheat by drilling a channel in the wooden bat, and filling it with cork. I guess you could do it with a cricket bat. Yeah. You could, as Cummins bowls to King. King tries to work this down to fine leg. Matthew Wade cuts it off, and they scamper through for a leg bye as the umpire taps his thigh to signal the leg bye. Yeah, you could do that. I did hear that from Gabe, obviously, when he's been talking about that. You know, obviously baseballers, with cork in their bats down the middle, cheating there and bending the rules, which you don't want to see, but it does happen in all sports. Cummins bowls to Charles. Charles, what a shot. Over square leg for 6. And 6 runs. And the 50 up for the West Indies. It's not a good delivery from Cummins, and that's gone over the rope for 6. Han says, what would be the sanction for tampering with a bat like that? I know in cricket, Han, in the laws, it's a run penalty, I think it is. I have to check. And then obviously you'll get fined, and the proper action will be taken by the governing bodies of the competition or whatever like that, or cricket boards or whatever. As this is a dot ball by Cummins, good comeback after the 6. And Charles races to 19 off 18. So I'm pretty sure it's like that. I have to check the laws for that with the bat, with the MCC, in the blue book. I have to check that. But I'm pretty sure it's a run penalty and you get fined afterwards, I think. Or the proper action being taken by your competition, whoever runs it, the governing body or whatever. As Cummins bowls to Charles, Charles glides this down to third man for a single. It's been a good over from the West Indies. 7, 8 off it, a 6 and a single, a leg bye and a couple of dots. Han, you say you only get caught in baseball if the bat breaks and you can see the cork. If the bat stays intact, then you'll get away with it. Yeah, you would. You're just hoping as a player in baseball, you hope you don't get caught and you hope the bat doesn't break on you. As Cummins bowls his last ball to King, and it's a dot ball. End of the over, it's 1 for 53 after 7. 179 for the West Indies to win. Can they do it? They've started well, but still a long way to go. Han, you say it would be easier to hide a tampered with bat now, with the stickers and covers rather than playing Willow back in the day. Yeah, it would be easier with stickers and tape and all that stuff. Obviously, you've got to be careful about the tape as well. I know Kevin Peterson got in trouble with that, with the DRS years ago, with the tape, not picking up on hotspot. I think it was during the 2013 Ashes. Nothing came up on hotspot when you appeared to edge the ball, but nothing came up. So, yeah, you can get away with a lot of things if you know what to do. But hopefully players don't do that. But with the laws and regulations in place, I think it's a good deterrent to stop players from doing that in cricket, tampering with the bats and trying to get an advantage. As Zampa comes into the attack for the first time this evening, he bowls to Charles, and Charles works this through covers for a couple of runs, and he moves on to 22. Hans says, I guess the cane handle being a different piece from the face of the bat has a similar effect. So you wouldn't really need to cork a cricket bat. No, you wouldn't need to. Pretty much the cane is just there as a shock absorber, really, to dampen the impact when you hit the ball. As Zampa bowls to Charles, swing and a miss by Charles, and it's a dot ball. It's going to be a very important bowler for Australia in this T20 World Cup, Adam Zampa. Not easy to bowl leg spin in Australia, or spin full stop. That's good delivery there. That one just going straight on, not turning at all. So Zampa into Charles again. And this one's driven down to long off for a single. Mitchell Starc does the fielding. And you say Gabe would look through every law to find a way to cheat. Well, we all know what Gabe's stance is towards umpires and that. Good thing I'm not on the Sinister Six. That's a good thing. I'm pretty sure he still has Steve Buckner on the Sinister Six. As Zampa bowls to King. King, swing and a miss, and he's out stumped. And good deception there from Adam Zampa. He's a good bowler. And that's the second wicket down for the West Indies. And Australia have got wicket number 2. Good delivery from Zampa. He went down the pitch there. King missed it completely. And a good take from Matthew Wade. I know a lot of people have criticised his keeping over the years, but that was a very good take. And he was able to remove the bails cleanly. And as we say, the wicket was put down fairly. And that's the end of Brandon King. He's gone for 23. West Indies are 2 for 56. Not the wicket they wanted to lose there. It was a wrong-un from Adam Zampa. He's bowled a lot of wrong-uns, I've noticed of late, Adam Zampa, and it's good to see him do that. Not a big turner of the ball, but no doubt if Shane Warne was watching, he would have been proud of that. Just bowl a wrong-un in there and deceive the batsman. No turn at all. Went straight on. And Nicholas Pooran, the captain, he's had some success for the Melbourne Stars in the Big Bash. He's not playing in the Melbourne Stars team for the Big Bash this year. Didn't get picked up in the auction. In the draft, I should say, not auction, which happened a month ago. A reminder, the Big Bash starting in December through to February again. And Zampa bowls to Pooran, and Pooran drives this to the man at mid-off in Steve Smith for a single. Han, you say, Gabe, it doesn't say that you can't fit an iron plate to the face of the bat. Nick and Gabe have got a lot of things to learn about the law still. And dot ball from Adam Zampa to finish. Good over from Zampa. They'll get an overthrow. That's a bit sloppy there. So they'll pinch the single at the last ball of the over. Should have been a dot ball, but it was an overthrow. In the end, West Indies are 2 for 58 after 8. And not ideal to lose the wicket of Brandon King in the last over. Renell says, well bowled. Yes, it was well bowled, Renell. And you say, didn't recognise Zampa. Man cut his hair short. Well, he has different hairstyles, Adam Zampa. He either shaves it all off or has a mullet or, has it cut the way he does today. Well, that's just Adam Zampa. Han says, I dread to think how Gabe would find ways to tamper with the ball. Yeah, less said about that, the better, Han. Kind of sick of talking about that incident all those years ago in Cape Town with Australia. But yeah, I don't know. It'd be interesting. I wonder if that happens in baseball as well. I didn't ask Gabe that. I'm pretty sure it does happen. Maybe you scuff it up a bit. I'm not sure. It'd be interesting to find that out from Gabe if that does happen. If the pitcher tampers with the ball a bit to get some swing or something like that. As Stark continues, he bowls to Charles. This one's uppish in the air. It falls safe. And there was nearly a run out there. They'll get an overthrow again. So a bit sloppy from Australia. 2 overthrows in the last 2 overs. Han says, will Australia winning the World Cup boost BBL attendances? Han, probably not. It's been a bit of a love-hate relationship with T20 cricket in Australia with the Big Bash. The main problem with it is that the BBL runs too long. Okay, runs too long. It starts in December until February, and many people want it shortened. So people go, but it's not what it used to be. But now for this BBL, they've changed the rules. They've brought in the innings counter or clock for the slow over rates. DRS is being brought back in for the Big Bash, which is good, and also the Women's Big Bash. They've brought in DRS for that. And they've also gotten rid of the X Factor and the Bash Boost point, but they still have the Power Surge. So yeah, it fluctuates with popularity, but we're going to see some good crowds in the T20 World Cup because it's a World Cup. But we're not going to see big crowds in the Big Bash, I don't think, after the World Cup finishes. Because, with T20 cricket, people get sick and tired of it. And you know how it is in cricket, Han. We always have that divide between people who love Test cricket and don't like T20 cricket. So that's the thing, really. You also say, Han, Gay would use pads made out of bumpers from pinball machines. So every leg by goes for a 4. Han says, I was thinking more of a Freedy biting the ball and Atherton with the dirt in his pocket. Oh, yes, I've seen that. I've seen that on YouTube, both of them, actually. I've seen that with a Freedy. That was a one-dayer during Australia and Pakistan in Perth. He bit the ball. And I was like, what's he doing? What's he doing? And also he got fined for that afterwards. Obviously, the umpire said, hang on, the ball's been changed. And we saw the replay, you bit the ball. So don't know what he was doing there, Afridi. Mitchell Stark. We're just having a look at a replay. I don't want to bring it up, but I think they were referring to a possible running out the non-striker there. Mitchell Stark stopped in his run-up, and it was a dead ball. And now he bowls his 4th ball, and it's a wide. That one down the leg side there. Han, you say they change the ball after pretty much every pitch in baseball. Yeah, they do, actually. If you hit a home run, they keep the ball, so they change it. So I don't think it would make any difference if the ball was tampered in baseball. So that's a good point there, Han. As Stark bowls to Pooran. Pooran pulls this straight to the man mid-wicket. And a very good catch from Aaron Finch. That's the end of Nicholas Pooran. He's gone. It's 3 for 62, and the West Indies are crumbling. And Nicholas Pooran, not good signs for him going into the World Cup. And he gets out for 2. He hit it straight down the man's throat. Aaron Finch takes a good catch at mid-wicket. And he's pretty happy about that. Jihan, you say, dumb way to get out. Yeah, it was Jihan. That's the thing with the West Indies. They just lack that smartness about their batting. And probably that's going to be the problem for them in this T20 World Cup. And we did talk about it a bit before about them possibly not qualifying in the first round. You never know. You think they should go through from the first round, maybe with Ireland. But if they keep playing the way they've been playing in this series, then who knows? It may be a difficult challenge for them to qualify for the Super 12 stage. Han says, do you think Australia lack characters, superstars these days? Gilchrist, Warne, Lee, etc. were characters and the modern team seem bland. Possibility, Han, maybe. You still got your characters in this Australian team. You got Matthew Wade, he's a bit of a character. Adam Zampa, but not really someone like a Gilchrist or Warne or Lee, like people can gravitate towards to. I think that's lacking a little bit. A bit there with the Australian team today, and people just seem not interested. Maybe after what happened in Cape Town probably had an effect as well with that. So, yeah, I don't know. Just people seem disinterested, I think. The start bowls to Holder, and this one's a short ball down the leg side, and in the end, it's a dot ball. Han says, I am also sure that Imran Khan used a bottle cap to gouge the ball. Might not have been him, but 100% a Pakistani player, or Pakistan player, I should say, in the 1990s. Yes, well, Pakistan did have a lot of issues with that over the years because they're the ones who really discovered reverse swing back in the day. As Stark bowls his last ball to Holder glides this through backward point. Adam Zampa at third man will cut it off. And he'll throw it to Glenn Maxwell. He'll throw it back to Matthew Wade. It's the end of the over. It's 3 for 64 after 9. Nearly halfway. West Indies, yet again, struggling with the bat. Han, you say they used not to change the ball in baseball, so pitchers would stand on it, spit on it, put Vaseline on it, etc. So the darker the ball got, the harder for the batter to see. Yeah, that's quite interesting to hear that. Some of the lengths that pitchers go to tamper with the ball. Jihan says 5 meters either side would have been 4. Yeah, would have, but a very good catch from Aaron Finch at mid wicket. As Adam Zampa continues. Single there to begin from Charles. Run rate getting out of hand for the West Indies is up to 10 now, the required rate. As soon as that gets up to 11 and 12s, well, to a ball, it's very difficult. But it's good. It's good that they're rotating the strike. They need to do that more and then pick the boundary if they can. Show that smartness about their batting, which has been lacking from them over the time as a T20 team. So Adam Zampa to Holder as he gets ready to bowl his second ball. He runs up, he bowls. And this one's defended. Behind square on the leg side for a quick single from Holder. Pat Cummins does the backing up, and in the end, it's only a single. Han, you say, I can see people going to the BBL games to see Lee, Warne, etc. when T20 isn't really their thing. I can't see many saying, I just have to go see Storness live. You're right, Han, you're right. In the early years when Warne and Lee were in the Big Bash, people, and back in those days, the tournament was best suited. That's what people want, that sort of tournament where it's short, sharp, and quick. You didn't have any of these finals. All you had was 2 semifinals. The winner of those 2 played in the final. And it lasted for, everyone played 7 games each out of 8. 8 teams, you play 7 games. Whereas now you play everyone twice. And a lot of people don't like that because it just drags on. So I've been to some Big Bash games at the Adelaide Oval for the Strikers on New Year's Eve, which is a pretty marquee game. And the crowd there was quite electric. And I quite enjoyed it. But yeah, it's just those people. Do I really want to go because And that's the thing with Australia, trying to get the Australian players in the Big Bash to make more people come. But Cricket Australia don't seem to listen because it's too long and people just want it short, sharp and quick and stop mucking around with it with these new rules or whatever, which they've gotten rid of at the start of this BBL season, which is upcoming. Another single for Charles, down to mid-on. Jihan, you say, it's funny you say that, Han Solo. I saw Saunders score 100 opening the batting for the Stars at the MCG at Melbourne. Stars Renegades Derby, big crowd was there. There was a big crowd there at the MCG for the Stars and Renegades game. I can't remember what season it was in the Big Bash, but it was over 80,000. And ever since then, it hasn't really gotten up to those numbers. That's the end of the 10th. It's 3 for 70, halfway through the innings. The West Indies are struggling. It'll be interesting to see what happens in this year's Big Bash. Obviously, with the Australian players coming back, they'll be available for 5 games. Given that South Africa are not playing that ODI series, it'll be interesting to see, if people come. And that's what you want. You want a good quality of cricket. And hopefully we'll see that in the Big Bash. But and also tonight, I would have expected a bigger crowd at the Gabba tonight. Unfortunately, not a lot of people. That's a number of reasons. Probably, it's Friday night. We've got other things to do, or it's against the West Indies, and the quality of cricket's probably not quite high. So that's why we're seeing another low crowd again at the Gabba tonight, as we did see on the Gold Coast on Wednesday. A couple of runs there for Holder as Green begins his third over. Renell says, when is England going to play Australia? This Sunday, Renell. First T20 will be in Perth. The second and third games will be played at Manuka Oval in Canberra, for those who don't know. So it begins on Sunday, Renell. Games on Wednesday and Friday next week. So it's a quick series before Australia go back to Brisbane to play that warm-up match in the T20 World Cup against India, which will be on October the 16th or something like that when the actual tournament starts. So a lot of traveling for Australia, going to Brisbane to Perth, and then, no worries, Renell, going to Brisbane to Perth, and then to Canberra, and then back to Brisbane again. And then going from Brisbane to Sydney to play against New Zealand to kick off the tournament, which is the rematch of the final. As Green bowls to Charles, this is high in the air. Who wants it? Who's underneath it? It's Matthew Wade with the gloves, and he says, thank you very much. I'll just add another catch to my statistics. And Charles is gone for 29. And the West Indies, it's going one way now. And for Cameron Green, at least he's got a wicket. That's good. He missed out with the bat tonight. But Matthew Wade, very safe pair of hands with the gloves, always the keeper's catch. And he's gone. So Charles gone for 29. It is 4 for 73 for the West Indies. So it's going to be Ravman Powell into the new batter at the crease. Obviously, it doesn't matter if the batter crossed. We're playing with the new playing conditions. So it's always the new batter on strike. So Powell will be on strike regardless of the batters crossing, with the new laws and the playing conditions that have taken effect. So that's going to get a bit of time for people to get used to those changes in the laws. I'll get to everyone's questions after that. Jihan says, a lot of comments I read about the poor crowd at Metricon was no one knew it was on, not advertised well enough clearly. Yeah, I did see that as well, Jihan. And even Steve Smith questioned about it. Is it worth it just having games at the Gold Coast or not if people are not going to turn up? So Cricket Australia need to do a bit better with their marketing in terms of advertisements. But it's even the same for Big Bash games as well over there when they've played up there. Not many people go. So green bowls to Powell, and he's off the mark with a single. Hans says, if I am in Australia and have money for a Windies game or wait for an England game, I'm not paying to see this match. Yeah, that's right, Han. That's right. A lot of people just want to save money. It's quite dear for tickets these days at the cricket. I think we should try and make that manageable for people in this day and age. Green balls to hold up, and this is a top ball. Jihan, you say I get to see Australia B side on Sunday, $110 for the ticket. Yeah, that's a lot of money. Renell says $110. That's a lot of money. Oh, it is. Jihan, you say can get standard seats for $50, but wanted to get ones behind the bowler's arms, so it costs more. Yeah, different parts of the ground, obviously. As green bowls to Holder, this has worked into the leg side for a couple of runs. Good running to end the over. It's 11 overs done in the book. The West Indies are 4 for 76. A reminder for everyone, make sure you like the stream, subscribe, and support the channel. It really does help. Click the bell so you don't miss out on any of our live streams or watch-alongs. We'll be doing a lot of those in the World Cup coming up, T20 World Cup, and during the Australian summer as well. Renell says a lot for one ticket. Yeah, it is. Hans says, surely Perth to Adelaide, then to Melbourne, Sydney, then Brisbane is the most sensible route. Well, that's just the way they've scheduled these games. Obviously, Brisbane for this game, then to Perth, and then Perth to Canberra, and then Canberra to Brisbane, because Australia play a warm-up match here at the Gabba against India before the T20 World Cup, and then back down to Sydney for the first game for the tournament for Australia against New Zealand. So on Saturday, October the 22nd. So, yeah, it's just the way they schedule the games, I suppose. As Sampa bowls to Powell, he works this through point for a quick single. 103 off 54 balls for the West Indies. Well, 53 deliveries, 102 runs they need off 53. And, yeah, this run rate's getting out of control now. Renell, you say, I miss Fletcher. That doesn't say he'll do well, but would have been handy since he played in BBL before. Yeah, he did play for the Stars for a season. Zampa bowls to Holder, and Holder hits this back down the ground for a boundary. And Steve Smith could not cut that off at long on. And that's 4 runs. Much needed boundary for the West Indies. The run rate's getting out of control here. And Australia doing well to restrict the runs. Jihan says, it will be my first time at Optus because my cousin's a member at the MCG, so he gets me box seats when I go there. That's interesting to hear. Hopefully it's a good experience, Jihan, on Sunday. And as you mentioned before, it will be Australia's B team, because obviously the main attack will be staying in Brisbane, given the time they have to travel in that. So I did forget to talk about that. But as Sampa bowls to Powell, and he's given out LBW. Well, the West Indies lose their 5th wicket. And he's going to review it, I think, Powell. He has reviewed it. Let's go upstairs, shall we? It looked pretty good to me. So a review. Powell, he seems pretty comfortable. He's not really concerned. Let's have a look. Well, the ball's close to the bat there. Did he hit it? Nothing on a hot spot. Is there something on RTS, on Snicker? Did he hit it? No, nothing there. It's a flat line. It looked pretty good. Australia looked pretty confident with this decision. The umpire did give it out on the field. Still going with Snicker. Rocking and rolling it, as they say. The third umpire says, rock and roll it for me. Director, can you rock and roll it? Just want to make sure there's no bat involved. Looks like it's flat line. And there's a spike as the ball hits the pad. Or it could be bat and pad at the same time. But he hasn't hit it, pal. So umpire gave out. Looked pretty good. Here we go. Ball tracking now. Pitching outside off. Impact is in line. Wickets missing. So a good review from Powell. Going over the top of the stumps. Missing the leg stump. Extra bounce. And Phil Gillespie has to overturn his decision to not out. Jihan said, umpire's call clip in the top of the stumps, I reckon. Well, Jihan, it was missing leg stump in the end. So good review from the West Indies point of view. Extra bounce at the Gabba, of course. I've got to remember that as well as an umpire. Always extra bounce here at the Gabba and the Wacker if you're umpiring there. Zampa bowls to Powell. He pulls this over deep mid-wicket for 6. And he's hit that over cow corner for 6. And that's his first boundary of the innings. A 6 to move him to 8. Nearly took out the security guard. And obviously has his back turned to the play. There was a wrong end from Zampa. And Powell just whipped that off. Leg side. Through deep mid-wicket for 6 at cow corner, I should say, sorry. And this time he gets squared up by Zampa, last ball of the over. And that's a okay over from the West Indies. 10, 11, 12 off it. They need a lot more than that. End of the over, it's 4 for 88 after 12. Jihan, you said, fair enough, reasonable stride in, an extra bounce to the Gabba. Yep, he did get a stride in, and that extra bounce, you always got to remember that at the Gabba when you're umpiring. Different conditions. I honestly thought it was out for a second. Yeah, it looked pretty good, Rinell, to the naked eye. But extra bounce here at the Gabba. So the West Indies get away with that one. Han, you say, if you ever meet Gabe, will you blow cigar smoke in his face like Fred Truman was doing? Oh, thanks for those videos, Han. I forgot to mention that earlier. Yeah, I have seen that video before on YouTube, actually, of Fred Truman doing that. Probably not. I don't smoke, so I probably won't be doing that if I meet Gabe live. Or meet him in person, I should say. As Stark bowls to Holder hits this through the covers for a single. I probably won't be doing that, but thanks for those videos, Han. And speaking about commentators, as we were speaking about in the last stream, it was Richie Benaud's birthday yesterday. Richie Benaud. He would have been 93, I think. So his birthday was yesterday, and we were talking about Richie Benaud in the last live stream. And it was the great man's birthday yesterday, October the 6th, born 1930, October the 6th, Richie Benaud. One of the legends. And a Stark bowls to Powell. This one's a wide delivery, and Powell gets a bit of bat on that. Through point, and it will be cut off for a couple of runs. And Powell moves on to 10. Well, the West Indies, they need 11 runs and over. Run rate's getting out of hand. But thanks for joining us, everyone. It's been good as always to join and talk about cricket, which we all do. But thanks for those videos, Han. Really enjoyed watching them and listening to them, especially the second one with Jack Bannister talking about Richie Benaud. It's good to hear his voice and his commentary, I suppose. As Stark bowls to Powell, this one wraps Powell on the gloves and he rips the hand off the handle. Not a good feeling when you get hit in the gloves with the ball. Not a good feeling if you get hit by the cricket ball full stop. It does really hurt. Four for 91, West Indies. Over rate's been a bit slow tonight. No surprise there with T20 matches. We've gone for almost like 3 and a bit hours, nearly 4 hours. So the over rate needs improving. This one's pulled by Powell. And David Warner does very well at long on to cut that off for a single. Han, you say, I wouldn't be able to do that to Nick and Gabe because they are drawers. Or dwarves. Oh, sorry. My mistake there. You also say, Han, Jack Bannister passed away a year after Richie. Oh, did he? Well, I know him and Richie had a very good relationship, as he was talking about in that video. And Mitchell Starc gets the 3rd wicket for himself, and the 5th wicket for the West Indies is gone. And Jason Holder is gone for 16. It's 5 for 92. The West Indies are going down, down, and down in this run chase. He has to walk off. Jason Holder, a simple catch for Cameron Green. Didn't even have to move. And that is the end of Jason Holder. A brief stay at the crease, 16 off 13. He's got to go. And he's gone. Batted for 21 minutes. 21 minutes he batted for, Jason Holder. And it's going to be the spinner Hussain into the attack. So Australia 1 over behind the over rate. So the over rate has not been good in this match thus far. I don't think it would matter for Australia, given that they're in a good position to win this match. And Ravman Powell has a bit of experience playing in major leagues around the world, IPL for the Delhi Capitals. Getting some treatment from the West Indian physio on his back, as Jihan alluded to there. Powell's got a back spasm, it looks like. He's getting it stretched out by the physio. Jihan says, when I look at the West Indies squad, there's a lot of talent there. I don't understand how they're lagging so behind the other teams. That's right, Jihan. They do have a lot of talent. It's just, I don't know. Me and Han had this discussion in the last stream. He talked about having a different coach, and he toiled the idea of Justin Langer being coach and saying, would he ever accept that job? Maybe they need another coach or someone who, like a Bob Simpson, maybe, to maintain discipline and standards, because at the moment, that's what they're lacking, standards and discipline with their cricket. And that's why they've been falling behind. Also, on the field and off the field stuff as well. Needs a bit of sorting out. They've got some problems there they need to attend to. That's the end of the over, by the way. It's 5 for 92 after 13, 7 to go. There we go. Han, you were saying, speaking of cricket commentators, I cannot think of many sports where commentators leave and go into another booth and work for a different company and then come back. Yeah. In cricket, you do, obviously, because you have many radio or television commentators. As Cameron Green bowls his final over here, he bowls to Powell, and Powell drives this to the man at mid-off for a quick single, and Hussain will be on strike for his second ball. Yeah, it's quite a unique position, isn't it, being a cricket commentator, going from one booth to another. So, yeah. I can't think of many sports that do that with their commentators. Han, you say, at Renell, I don't blame them for it. The West Indies board is awful and doesn't look after the players. So they have to look out for themselves. Han, you say, I know this will shock you, but it's pouring down here. I don't think that's shocked me at all, Han, being in England at this time of year, pouring down. But we've had some rain too here in Australia as well. It's green bowls, and this one's a short ball to Hussain. It's a dot ball. 86 or 40. So this game's slipping away from the West Indies. But nothing much happening with the cricket at the moment. It's pretty much straightforward here, you would think. But let's have the conversation nonetheless. I'm not surprised, Han, if it's pouring down there. As I said, we've had some rain here as well in spring. So hopefully the rain will not affect the T20 World Cup all that much, because we don't want to see shortened games, as we saw in India, for example, and that game went for 8 overs. As Green bowls to Hussain, he works as behind square for a single. Renell says, nah, Justin, wouldn't, and he should not take it. Politics will have him ruined. Jihan says, I remember one match against India. Hetmeyer was wearing another player's shirt, so Village. I'm pretty sure the Australian team does that as well. I'm pretty sure someone wore someone else's sweater or something, Jihan, in one of the ODIs or T20s. I think it was Mitchell Starc. He was wearing someone else's sweater. I don't know why they do that. I'm pretty sure it was, or something like that. Jihan says, what chance have you got if you can't even dress yourself? Han says, it is always fun when someone steps out of the commentary box and the new one comes in. Maybe golf does it too. Yeah, maybe. As Green bowls, and he bowls to Hussain, who tries to pull this onto the leg side. It's hit Hussain on the helmet, so I'm pretty sure we're going to have a check by the physio to make sure he's okay. But it was a short ball there from Green. Tried to pull it, didn't time it, hit him on his arm. So in the end, he's okay. Didn't quite his helmet, so I don't think we need to check for concussion. I'll have a look here again. Yeah, just a bit too early on the shot, a bit late. Hit him on the arm. And the physio's out there. It looks like Power's got those back spasms again. Physio out there trying to stretch his hamstrings and his legs. So suffering with a bit of cramps maybe, or spasms. Renell says, yes, the board was awful since Cameron had the job. Players don't appreciate the board, and the board ain't taking care if they played either Cameron faults. Han, you say 12 degrees, so it feels warm. Yeah, it would be. That's okay. It's a typical day in England. 12 degrees, quite balmy. But yeah, just seeing cricket being played in England, especially county cricket, early in the season, it's still snowing. People are wearing beanies. You don't see that in Australia. You see players wearing, short sleeve shirts because it's so hot. Han says, I want to see JL's face when he gets the West Indies job and realises Gabe has a hotline to him. Renell says, but can't say the board was a little fine. It's always have some drama, but since Dave get in, turn to hell every day with some chaos with him and some players. Han says that Renell, I remember a World Cup a few years ago where the players refused to get on the plane because they hadn't been paid. As Green bowls his final ball to Hussain. Hussain, thickish outside edge, which goes short of Adam Zampa at third man for a single. We got 6 overs remaining. It's 5 for 96 for the West Indies. 6 overs remaining of this T20 series. And the West Indies preparation for the T20 World Cup. Not ideal. Batting has been a little bit poor tonight. And they've got to rectify that heading into the T20 World Cup. I think, Han, one tour of India with the West Indies, they didn't get paid. They had some arguments with their cricket board. And they didn't play that ODI, I think it was in Dharamshala a few years ago, in protest of that. Because I remember Ian Gould, the former England umpire, talking about that. Because I did watch an umpiring video that he did for the ECB, and they talked about that. Maybe it was during the T20 World Cup in 2016, but I think it was before that, a couple of years later maybe. So the West Indies have always had problems, and it's something they need to sort out. As Hazelwood's back into the attack, and Hussain hits this through the covers for 4. And that's not a bad way to begin this over. 4 runs for Hussain, and 100 up for the West Indies. Han, you say, yeah, spring in the UK is a 60% winter conditions and then a couple of hot weeks just before summer. Not fun to play cricket in. Yeah, not fun indeed. I've played in games where it's not comfortable to play in with heat. Around about nearly 30 degrees or 40 degrees. It's quite unpleasant. Josh Hazelwood bowls to Hussain, a swing and a miss, stop ball. Renell says 2016 World Cup, the men's team had to use the women's jersey. Didn't get anything from Cameron with shirt, etc. Dave and Sammy always had beef. Yeah, so the West Indies, some of the problems they've had over the years with the board and the players, it's something that they need to work on. Anyway, nothing much to say about this match as Hazelwood bowls to Hussain, who works this behind square on the leg side for a couple of runs. It's pretty much one-way traffic at the moment. The West Indies 5 for 101. The required run rate is 14. So you would say it's out of reach now. For the West Indies, they've got to get something out of this last bit of the match now. For Australia, it's about trying to finish off the job. Let's try and bowl, get wickets, really improve the death bowling. As I thought in the last game, the death bowling was a little bit off. So it's something that they need to work on. So it's something that they need to always look to improve on, Australia, going forward to the T20 World Cup, getting the death bowling right. As Hazelwood continues to Powell, he swings this hard, Powell, onto the offside, through the covers. He'll pick up a couple of runs, and he moves on to 15. And for the West Indies, they move on to 5 for 103. Jihan says, ball always flies through at the Gabba. Yes, it does. Good pace, good bounce. And you'll definitely see some good pace and good bounce at the new stadium in Perth as well. And also at the Wacker. This one's outside the off stump from Hazelwood, and Powell leaves it for no run. Not tempted in playing that delivery. Thanks for joining us, everyone. I know it's been a bit of a downer of a match, but it's good to talk about cricket. Just having a look at Australia's T20 World Cup fixtures. Can't wait for Saturday, October the 22nd. Rematch of the final, Australia versus New Zealand. Then Australia versus a qualifier on the 25th of October. They will be at Optus Stadium in Perth for their first 2 games. So as Hazelwood bowls to Powell, this has worked through the covers from Powell for a single to end the 15th. End of the over. 5 overs remaining. It is 5 for 104. Exciting. T20 World Cup coming up. And I think most people will be sick and tired of T20 cricket and be glad when the Test summer starts in Australia. That doesn't start until November the 30th, when the West Indies play the first Test in Perth, and then followed by the day-night Test in Adelaide, which I always look forward to. Adelaide Oval, one of my favourite grounds. Question in the chat for everyone. What's your favourite ground in world cricket? Any favourite grounds for everyone? As Adam Zampa will bowl out his 4 overs. He will bowl to Powell. He's done really well, Adam Zampa. And important bowler for Australia. So for those in the chat, anyone who's listening or watching, your favourite ground in cricket. What's your favourite ground in world cricket? Be interesting to hear people's thoughts on that. As Zampa bowls to Powell, and Powell hits this down to mid-off for a single. And Hussain will be on strike for the second ball this over. Jihan says, West Indies will probably be in the India, Pakistan, South Africa group. We'll have to beat 2 of those to get into the semis. Yep. It'd be interesting to see how they qualify the West Indies. Swing and a miss from Hussain. This one, I think he gets the outside edge and Cameron Green can't chase it to the third man boundary. The ball wins. And it's a quick outfield here at the Gabba. 4 runs. Yeah, you would probably think the West Indies will qualify. But in that group against India, South Africa, Pakistan, and Bangladesh, not going to be an easy group for them to progress. So you'll probably think maybe Pakistan and probably India. As Zampa continues to Hussain. Hussain tries to go for a big slog, and he gets a bit of bat on this. This is running fine to the fine leg boundary for 4 runs. Or buys, I think it was called by the umpire. Let's have a look. In the end, it was buys. So no bat on that. But anyway, runs for the West Indies. Doesn't matter how they come in the game. At least it's 4 runs in the scorebook. Zampa bowls to Hussain. It's a big shot from Hussain on the leg side, down to the long on boundary for 6 runs. Well, a 4 and a 6 and a 4 and a single to start this over. It's been pretty good from the West Indies, but a bit too late as the run rate's getting out of control. Jihan, you say, should that have been a wides? No, Jihan. I think I was quite surprised it wasn't called a wide, but the umpire thought, well, the batter was playing a shot, so you would think the ball's near him, so it's not a wide, so it'll be buys. So that's the reasoning I could think of. That's why the umpire didn't give it a wide. Because he moved from the offside, not the leg side. Yes, he did move there, but in the end, the umpire thought, well, the ball's near him. He moved away as well. And usually if you move away, then you probably say, well, it's not a wide, it should be buys. And that's why the umpire called it buys there, because he moved away. You've got to remember that as an umpire. If the batter moves away or moves backwards or closer to the ball, then that wide moves along with it as well. So that's the end of the over. It's 5 for 119 for the West Indies. Good over. Adam Zampa won't be happy about that over, but anyway, in the context of the match, it doesn't really matter, as the West Indies are falling behind with the run rate. And that 178 score for Australia was pretty good. Ronell says Hussain really improved on his batting. Good on him. Yeah, well, everyone's got a bat, I suppose, in cricket from 1 to 11. You're always going to have everyone to work on their batting. Han says, my nearest ground is turning into a red rectangle, so it's not that one. I'll say the MCG. I'm guessing you live up near Old Trafford, Han, which is turning into a rectangular red prism. My favourite ground, I can't go past the Adelaide Oval, of course. I've been there many times. A couple of international matches, one-dayers, and some Big Bash games over the years. As Cummins comes back to bowl the 17th. This one's a wide, outside the off-stump. It's a wide. So the Adelaide Oval will be my favourite ground. And then followed by Lords. Hope to go there one day, Lords. And then the MCG for me. That's my top 3. But there's so many great cricketing grounds around the world. So many iconic grounds for me. Here in Australia, Adelaide Oval. And then you have, in New Zealand, you have some good grounds. South Africa as well. Cape Town's a good ground. India has some good grounds as well. England. So there's been a lot of iconic grounds in world cricket over the years. As Cummins bowls to Powell, they scamper through for a quick single. And the West Indies, this partnership, 28 for the 6th wicket. Jihan, you say, for me, although only been there twice for the last 2 Ashes tests, the Gabba is my favourite. Best pitch, best cricket, and balance between bat and ball, good atmosphere, and barring tropical storms. Yes. Yep, the Gabba's a good ground, and also you say the best weather. Yes, especially in the summer, it gets quite hot there. Quite unusual that it's not hosting the first test of the summer anymore. It usually does in November period. Cricket Australia have sort of gone off that over the last few years. A lot of people have been complaining about that. They should have the first test at the Gabba. I don't think it really makes any difference, really. Not for this summer, I don't think. Han says, I probably live near to wherever Cheshire play their games at, but Old Trafford is the nearest big ground. As Cummins bowls to Powell, this is another dot ball. Jihan says, nailing the wide Yorkers. Yes, it's good to see from Cummins because he had a bit of a tap in the India series, didn't he? Didn't quite get it right at the death over there. So it's good to see Pat Cummins bowling well, be it against the West Indies. But, to execute the Yorkers like this is pretty good. And Australia got to take something out of this match. We pretty much know the match is done as this is high in the air from Powell. He swings and Matthew Wade takes another catch behind the stumps. Well, sorry about that, everyone. Knocking things over. As Powell's gone for 18 and another catch for Matthew Wade behind the stumps. And Jihan, you say identical dismissals. Dismissal to Johnson Charles. Yes, straight up in the air. And Rennell says good catching practice. Yes, it is. He's gone, Powell, for 18. And Rennell says top edge. Yes, it was. It didn't quite time that at all. Well, you can't blame him. Obviously, trying to play a big shot. The West Indies are behind in the runs. Didn't really get going again in the run chase. Just lost too many wickets. And you can't afford to do that in T20 cricket. As soon as you lose wickets, you lose momentum and you lose everything. So that is the end of Powell. Odin Smith arrives at the crease. And he'll be looking to try and bat out these overs if he can. So for the West Indies, the goal for them is to probably not get bowled out. The goal for Australia, I would like to see Australia bowl the West Indies out in these last few overs if they can. Really improve their death bowling and try and execute those plans at the death, which is very important. As Cummins bowls to Smith, he works this around the corner behind square of the leg side for a single, and he's off the mark. Rennell, you can't say what my favourite ground is at the moment. Haven't travelled enough to say which, but I do like the one in St. Vincent. You say Arnos Vale Cricket Ground, been there once. Yeah, the West Indies have some good grounds here, but I've noticed over the years they've been a bit poor in terms of the maintenance there. Some of them a bit run down. I think the Antigua recreational ground in Antigua is not there anymore. That's gone. And it's high in the air from Smith, and Steve Smith just short of the catch there. Stretched out his arm, unfortunately couldn't catch it. So they get a single in the end. 2 runs, in fact. End of the over, it's 6 for 125. We got 3 overs remaining. 3 overs remaining of this match and of the series. Hans says the nearest cricket oval to me is about 150 meters away. That's not bad. Not far away. You don't have to travel far, Han. You also say, Han, lose wickets, lose momentum, the Tom Curran plan. Yeah. As you say, Han, South Africa might rename Centurion because Gabe can't count to 100. Well, he is a teacher after all, Gabe, so he should know how to count to 100. Josh Hazlewood back in for his last over. He bowls to Smith, and Smith whacks this back down the ground to long off. David Warner does the fielding. They pick up a single. There's no run. Well, once again, everyone, thanks for joining us. Make sure we get some likes on the stream. I've noticed that we've got 12 likes on the stream, which is good. Make sure we get some people subscribing as well, which is fantastic. We've just crossed over 400, which is a good milestone to get to. Hopefully we can get to that 500 in the near future. As Hazlewood bowls to Smith, and Smith, in the end, no run. Tried to play a big shot, mistimed it completely. Renell says, the reason they haven't had matches there at St. Vincent is because of not enough hotels and other stuff concerning that country. Interesting. As Hazlewood begins his third ball of this over. He runs up, he bowls to Smith, and Smith hits this hard through the covers. Are they looking for two? Mitchell Starc does the fielding in the deep. They just sit on the single. The story of the West Indies tonight with their batting. It's been a bit all over the place. Han says, I can't see the cricket club, but I can hear the players appeal and applaud. Well, that's good. Jihan says, barring a day trip to the Bahamas, I've never been to the Caribbean. Might try and go for the next World Cup there or next Australia tour. That's interesting, the Caribbean. Nice islands there. Hazlewood bowls to Hussain. This one's a swing and a miss, and it's a dot ball in the end. Renell says, Bahamas nice. Well, they do have the T20 World Cup in 2024. West Indies, with the USA co-hosting as well. So it should be an interesting tournament. Fifth ball of this over. And a single, I think, from Hussain. Yes, a single. One ball left of the 18th. We got 2 overs remaining. Han, you say it was Brian Statham's first club before he got pick up for county cricket. Was it? Interesting. That's good to hear. Brian Statham, very good fast bowler for Lancashire and also for England. As Hazlewood bowls his last ball. This one's a short ball to Smith. It goes. He's done well there, Matthew Way, to stop that going to the boundary. But in the end, it's a dot ball. So end of the over. It is 6 for 129. We've got 2 overs remaining of this match and of the series. And Australia look like they are going to win this series 2-0 and comprehensively, I should say. Trying to get that word out. It's been a pretty convincing victory. Obviously not confirmed yet, but 2 overs remain. So Australia looking to get some confidence or some momentum going into the England series and hopefully the T20 World Cup, which starts on October the 16th, not far away from that tournament starting. Han says, the Windies going to play any more after this series? No, Han, I don't think. Well, they're going to play two warm-up matches. As Pat Cummins' first ball of the 19th over gets dispatched to the boundary for 4 from Hussain. So the West Indies picking up some boundaries here at the end. Obviously not going to make any difference in terms of the result of this match, but that one bounces inside the boundary rope for a boundary. They're going to play two warm-up matches before the T20 World Cup, Han. I had a look at it. They're going to play the UAE, I think, and the Netherlands. Both of those games are going to be in Melbourne for the warm-ups before the tournament starts. In the air, gone. And Cummins gets his second wicket. Hussain's gone, caught by David Warner at mid-off. And the West Indies lose their 7th. And that is the end of Hussain. Gone for 25. Not bad innings from him. Unfortunately for the West Indies, not enough to try and win this game tonight. Han says, has anyone gone to New Zealand to warm up? Are they all in Australia now? A good question there, Han. I was actually watching the first game of the Tri-Series in New Zealand between New Zealand, Bangladesh, and Pakistan. So they're playing a series there at the moment, a Tri-Series. And Pakistan won convincingly. And so that's a warm-up series there in Christchurch, which is in New Zealand. So that's Wonder Series going on. This series, Australia, West Indies, Australia and England. And then you have the other teams who have arrived in Australia. They're playing some warm-up matches against or training and at various parts in the country. So it's going to be Azari Joseph, the new batter at the crease. Faces Cummins. He pulls this. What a shot from Joseph. First ball down the leg side, and he was able to hit that over the rope down to fine leg for 6. Well, not a good ball from Pat Cummins. Jihan, you say, I think they'll have warm-ups and then qualifiers start in 9 days. Yep, that's the plan. That's the plan. Australia will play a warm-up match against India here in Brisbane. And, was that 4? 1 bounce. Thanks, Renell. Didn't quite see that. I thought that went over the rope for 6. Anyway, Cummins bowls to Joseph, and this one's high in the air on the offside, and it will just fall short on Cameron Green, and they'll pick up a couple of runs. Jihan, you said Pakistan and Bangladesh are playing a Tri-Series in New Zealand right now. Yes, they are. You also say, Jihan, apparently it snowed in Christchurch the day before the match. Well, it is quite cold. I did hear the commentators say this is the earliest start for a New Zealand summer. So it's quite cold in New Zealand at the moment. They'll be happy to come over to Australia. Cummins bowls to Joseph. This one's an outside edge. It will race away to the third man boundary for 4. So Pat Cummins not quite getting it right in this over. Bit wayward. Han says, would Australia ever host a game in Papua New Guinea? Well, I know Papua New Guinea have played in Australia, Han. They've played up in Townsville because Queensland's not far away from Papua New Guinea. It's only a few kilometres away from mainland Australia. But they have played some games in Australia, Papua New Guinea. It'll be interesting. Maybe they will. I'm not sure. We shall see. I don't think that's a bad thing to try and promote the game. Get people interested in cricket, especially in Papua New Guinea, that part of the world. And that's the end of the over. It's 7 for 143. And we've got 1 over remaining, and Australia. Now, I don't think this will matter all that much, but Australia, the umpires are just saying, well, you've got to take one fielder outside the circle and bring him back in, because Australia are a bit poor with the over rate. So that's the new playing condition in T20 cricket. If you're behind your overs before the start of the 19th over, you've got to put one fielder inside the 30-yard circle. That wouldn't matter that much for Australia tonight, but obviously for Australia during the T20 World Cup, a lot of teams are going to be wary about that. Could be the difference between winning and losing the match or chasing down a target. Mitchell Starc going to bowl the final over of this match and the series. He's going to be bowling to Smith. He's on strike. Jihan says, was watching Pakistan bowling today. They were nailing their Yorkers, a skill that seems to have diminished of late. Their bowling will be dangerous. Yes, it will be. They bowled pretty well against Bangladesh. They'll be hoping that Shaheen can come back. He's been a bit injured with that knee injury, but let's hope he can come back for Pakistan, obviously. But yeah, they bowled really well. I did have a look at that match today when it was on. Very good bowling from Pakistan. Be interesting to see how they go against New Zealand. And New Zealand being dealt a big blow with Daryl Mitchell being injured, and he's not going to take part in the T20 World Cup. Mitchell Starc gets his 4th wicket, and that is the end of Smith. Clean bowled him, and that is the end of Smith. Good delivery, straight at the stumps. And Jihan, as you say that, lol, just as I said, that Starks rolled back the years to 2015. Oh yeah, pretty much that Yorker he bowled to Brendan McCullum in that 2015 World Cup pretty much changed the game and pretty much decided the fate of New Zealand in that final back at the MCG. And hopefully Australia can repeat that in this T20 World Cup. Look to win the trophy at the MCG come the final. Yeah, good delivery from Stark at the leg stump. That's where you need to go. And it's a very important skill to nail the Yorkers. Han says, PNG would give Australia some Indian and Sri Lankan-like conditions to practice in. Yeah, they would. I haven't seen much cricket in Papua New Guinea. I'm not sure what the conditions are like over there. But I think they will be similar to subcontinental conditions. Renell says, can't wait for the day Hetmeyer announces his retirement to the West Indies. I will be so happy. It's definitely a big blow not playing this T20 World Cup. Hetmeyer. Stark bowls to Karaya. Gets off the mark quickly with a single behind a square on the offside. Renell says, good ball from Stark. Yes, it was a good ball. Han says, I saw some of the English bowlers trying Yorkers in the 100. Let's call them wide full tosses. Yeah, if you get it wrong, not a good feeling as a bowler because it becomes a full toss. That's why we don't see many bowlers bowl them. But it's a valuable skill to have. We've got to see that a lot from bowlers. Bowl the Yorker if you can. If you get hit for 6, so be it. But practice it and try and get and perfect the skill. This one is a wide. And 4 balls left now with that wide. Not far away from ending this match and the series. Han says, let's put it this way. England ain't got a Yorker machine like Flintoff these days. No, he bowled some very good Yorkers, Flintoff. I remember that Yorker. It wasn't really a Yorker. It was more of a full toss to Jock Cullis back in that test at Edgbaston where Cullis went off because he couldn't see the ball because of the side screen. He was a very good bowler, Flintoff. Could bowl these Yorkers. And even though that delivery to Cullis wasn't a Yorker, it was a full toss, wrapped him on the pads, and Cullis wasn't happy about it. But, geez, what a delivery that was. And unfortunately for England, they didn't quite win that test match. South Africa won because of Graham Smith's wonderful century back in, 2008-9 period. As Stark bowls to Joseph, he's on 10. He bowls, and this one's angled into the pads, and Joseph works this ball through mid-wicket for a single. We've got 2 balls left of this match. Thanks for joining us, everyone. It's been good to engage in conversation and talk to many of you tonight. It's always been good doing these live streams. Let's get more likes, shares. People share the stream, like the stream, subscribe. Really does help. As we approach the end of this match. 2 balls left. Mitchell Stark runs up. He bowls to Kaya. And this one. Push down the ground to mid-on for a single. We got 1 ball left. And Renell says, good stream. Thank you. No worries, Renell. Been a bit of a one-sided series, I'm afraid, but there's a lot for both teams to look at going through to the T20 World Cup. Australia will be pleased. I don't think they'll be happy. I think tonight they could have done a few things better. Yet again, loss of wickets at the wrong time once batters were in. The West Indies have been a bit off with both bat and ball. Not quite with that consistency. The last ball of the match is a short delivery, and it is a dot ball. Australia win by 31 runs, and they win the series 2-0. Convincing victory. So there you have it. Australia win. by 3 wickets, and Australia win the series 2-0 in the best of 2. So in the end, it was a run chase that sort of petered out. Let's just say that. And for the West Indies, both teams shaking hands along with the umpires, and we're going to get ready for the presentation. We'll stick around for the presentation and see what both teams have to say on this. Renell says, well played, Australia. No surprise there. Yep, no surprise at all. I think Australia were tested a little bit at times in this match, but I think the England series will be a bigger test, which will happen on Sunday in Perth. Han says, why don't cricketers have illustrious mustaches anymore? Robin Smith, Alan Lamb, Murph Hughes. Now we get Dom Bess and Tom Curran. You forgot David Boone as well, Han. David Boone had a very good mustache for Australia. I know Alan Border had a mustache for a while when he was playing. I don't know. Maybe, players don't really want to grow a mustache. It's personal choice, I suppose. But, obviously those guys, especially Murph Hughes, David Boone, they had very good mustaches and iconic in world cricket. Yes, I say Han, Dom Bess is garbage, but I would respect him if he had a David Boone tash. Yes. Well, David Boone was a very good player for Australia and Tasmania, and he's on the Cricket Tasmania board now. So he's just been appointed as chairman. So I'm not sure if he's still going to do his match referee duties. I'm pretty sure he will. I'm not sure about that, but I did see that he was elected as the new chairman of the Tasmanian Cricket Board. So recap the match. Australia 7 for 178 from their 20 overs. David Warner top scored with 75, and the West Indies finished on 8 for 147 from 20 overs. Charles top scored with 29, and Australia won by 31 runs and win the series 2-0. Han, you say even Mitchell Johnson was better when he had the mustache. Well, he did. He bowled a lot faster in that Ashes series. That was quite iconic, the mustache. But he had to shave it off in the end. So I think he was a bit off when he shaved it off. But when he had it on, pretty good bowler, especially in that Ashes series. So as we wait for the presentation, bit of a recap of tonight. I got to say, tonight's game, Australia would be pleased, but there's still a lot of work to do. I always think that no matter how you win, you always got to learn from your performance. And I think for Australia tonight, I think there was a few areas they could get better at. They lost wickets in clumps again, batting collapse. There's a concern about Glenn Maxwell's form. Good to see David Warner in the runs. Steve Smith, still a bit unsure about his position in the team. Aaron Finch got a 50 in this series, missed out tonight. The bowling was pretty good. But towards the end a bit, they sort of got it wrong at the death, Australia, again, with the execution, even though the game wasn't on the line. So they got to get those things better. But a very interesting game indeed. Han, thanks for the great stream again. No worries, Han. We try to do our best on the podcast and try and make it entertaining and fun, despite the game being a bit one-sided today, which was a bit disappointing. And that sort of reflects on the number of people liking and watching the stream, I suppose. So it'd be interesting to see how many people did end up watching tonight's watch-along. But as I was saying, very disappointing result for the West Indies. They'll be disappointed. There's a lot of areas for them to work on and improve on. And it is a concern for them going forward. There's some areas to work on, as we know. But I think Australia will take this win, and a 2-0 victory is okay. Going into the England series, that's going to be a very interesting series. Obviously, a lot of games to improve on, give players opportunities, and hope they can improve. So, yeah, interesting build up for Australia, but I think they'll be pleased. A bit disappointed. So, as we wait for the presentation and see who's the player of the match and probably the player of the series in this short series, we can just have a bit of a talk and just talk about things. And talk about what's going to happen for the next few weeks on the podcast to a month. And just want to outline that for everyone so you know. Renell says, man, they cut the presentation to show European Cricket League. Well, that's quite interesting, that Cricket League over in Europe. Quite interesting. I saw today they ran about 9 slips for one match. That's quite interesting. Just say to the skipper, "Oh, can I just have 9 slips?" Very entertaining indeed. So what's going to happen with the podcast over the next few weeks? We got T20 World Cup. We've also got Australia versus England. Now we've already scheduled the live stream for the Australia and England match. That's going to be the second game of that series. So we won't be live streaming the first game. I'll be only live streaming watch along the second game and the third game of those series against Australia and England. And then come October the 22nd, we'll be back for the T20 World Cup and streaming that tournament until the conclusion. Australia matches plus selected matches plus the semi-finals and the final. So that's the plan for the next few weeks to a month during this T20 World Cup period. And hopefully you can join us for that. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and click the bell so you don't miss out on these live streams and watch-alongs, because it's great fun to do them and great to chat with everyone. Renell says, yeah, I saw that. 9 slips. Crazy. Yeah, it was crazy. Renell says, Warner, player of the series. Yes, David Warner, player of the match and player of the series, I suppose. It's only 2 games, I suppose. There's no point having a player of the series if it's only 2 games. So David Warner named player of the match. Nicholas Puran having a chat about tonight, about where they can improve on. And he's got a lot of thinking to do. And the West Indies have a lot of pondering, a lot of reflection to do in the upcoming days towards the first round of the T20 World Cup, which is not far away, October the 16th. And we're not far away from the tournament actually starting. So Nicholas Puran, he'll be a bit disappointed about tonight, about how the team performed. But as I said, it's all about learning and trying to get better for the West Indies going forward as a team. So Aaron Finch, he's having a chat now about the game tonight and how the team went in terms of their performance. Be interesting to see what they do Australia going forward in terms of the build-up to the T20 World Cup. Renell says, board, better stick with Puran as captain. Well, obviously, he is the new captain, Renell. It's going to be tough for him. First T20 World Cup as captain and leader of the side. But the West Indies, you would think they'll qualify for the Super 12 stage, but they've got some work to do, that's for sure. And as we saw in this series, very one-sided, and no surprise that Australia won the series 2-0. Aaron Finch, quite delighted with how tonight went, but I think Australia will be still looking at those areas of improvement. As I mentioned, you always want to keep getting better each game you play. So with that, Australia win by 31 runs. Let me try and fix this here. Sorry, Australia won by 31 runs. And Australia win the series 2-0. So in the end, a very comprehensive victory from Australia. And I think that will do us. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. The presentations are over, and so is this watch-along and live stream. Once again, thanks, everyone, for joining us. It's been really great fun doing these live streams and talking about cricket as we do. As I said, we'll be back for our live streams and watch-alongs for the second of 3 T20 internationals between Australia and England. That second game will be on Wednesday at Manuka Oval. So please do join us for that game. Also, stay tuned to the upcoming episodes of the podcast. I'll be doing my review of this short series and posting that out on the YouTube channel and on Anchor, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts, offering my thoughts about the series and then previewing the England series as well. So stay out for those 2 episodes, which are coming out most likely over the weekend, of course, and make sure you subscribe to the channel, click the bell so you don't miss out on those episodes and also these live streams and watch-alongs. But as I said, Australia win by 31 runs. They win the series 2-0, comprehensive victory, one-sided in the end, and very disappointing performance from the West Indies in these 2 games. We'll get to the final comments, and I think we'll pull up stumps, and that will be the end of today's play. Renelle says, thank you again. No, thank you, Renelle, for being here. And thanks for supporting the channel. So really appreciate your support, Renelle. And thank you to everyone, Han, Jihan, who were in the chat tonight. We didn't have much people watching tonight. Obviously, sort of a reflection of how this series was, a bit of a one-sided affair. Hopefully, the England series will be competitive and hopefully we'll see some good cricket over the next 3 games. And hopefully we see a very good T20 World Cup indeed. But from us here, it's time to say goodbye. Before we go, be sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. Sorry, let me try and say that again. Before we go, be sure to subscribe to our channel, YouTube channel. Make sure you click the bell to get the latest episodes of the podcast. Be sure to like and share our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and on Instagram. Also, the podcast is available on Anchor, Spotify, and on Apple Podcasts. Until next time, everyone, keep safe and bye for now.